Chapter 51, The Beginning of San Wu's Love. Teacher Zhao. Teacher Zhao. Seeing Teacher Zhao fall down once again, everyone from Shrek couldn't help but recall a few days ago when Teacher Zhao swaggered arrogantly toward Yi Ziqiu of Kenghui Academy, only to be heavily taught a lesson in humility by him. Damn it. If you don't have the strength, what the hell are you acting tough for? Did you really have to charge forward head-on? Didn't you know how to dodge? You made us think that with Ning Rongrong's support, you could actually rival the Titan giant ape right before us. Now that you've been slapped unconscious with a single paw, what are we supposed to do? At this moment, everyone among the Shrek students except Tang San and Xiao Wu wore looks of utter despair. Immediately afterward, the Titan giant ape slapped the ground once again, inevitably sending everyone flying from the shockwave. While still in midair and before they could even react, they took another blow straight on, subsequently spitting blood and passing out from their injuries one after another. The Titan giant ape then grabbed the completely unharmed Xiao Wu and sprinted off into the distance. After a while, everyone woke up. Seeing that they were still alive, they inevitably felt a sense of having narrowly escaped death. As everyone quietly took a head count, they discovered that Xiao Wu was missing, and then they all looked toward Tang San in silence. After finishing the head count, Zhao Wuji let out a sigh of relief. Missing only Xiao Wu, who had no background, was fine. Xiao Wu didn't have any backing. At best, she was just Little San's little girlfriend. Clear Sky Duluo wouldn't risk his life with him over that little girl. At most, he would just give him a hammer smash and beat him up over that little girl, and that would be it. It looked like he, Zhao Wuji, had successfully survived. I'm going to save Xiao Wu, Tang San suddenly said at this moment. Hearing these words, Zhao Wuji's entire body suddenly trembled. My little ancestor, stop messing around. If anything happens to you, Clear Sky Duluo will definitely skin me alive. However, to maintain his dignity as a teacher, Zhao Wuji naturally couldn't say that, and could only speak righteously. No way, Little San. The Titan giant ape is the king of the forest, even ordinary titled Duluo couldn't possibly defeat him. Let alone you. You're just going to your death. Teacher Zhao, you don't need to say any more. Even knowing clearly that I am going to my death, I will definitely choose to save Xiao Wu. No, I don't agree. Little San, without my permission, don't even think about leaving this place easily. Afterwards, Zhao Wuji sat directly beside the Shrek 7 Devils, as if specifically to keep an eye on Tang San. Zhao Wuji silently complained in his heart, if something happens to you after you leave, Clear Sky Duluo will definitely be the first to kill me. How could I possibly let you leave so easily? Tang San didn't care about Zhao Wuji's words and actions. HMPH, what do you know? The Titan giant ape is Xiao Wu's maternal family, would it possibly harm Xiao Wu? But if I don't go, how am I going to see that 2,000-year-old man-faced demon spider this time, and how am I going to obtain my future external spirit bone? Not only that, but this is the beginning of our 10,000-year legacy of San Wu's love. If I miss it this time, won't our future 10,000-year legacy of San Wu's love shatter? This is one of the major sources for me to harvest the power of faith in the future. How could I possibly let it shatter just like that? If you weren't my teacher and didn't know about this matter, then based on this alone, you would already have a way to die. Tang San didn't speak at this moment, only slightly regulating his own physical condition. After all, there was still a fierce battle to be fought later. After regulating his body, he subsequently glanced at Zhao Wuji and found that he hadn't chosen to keep staring here all the time, but was instead regulating his own body over there. Tang San let out a breath of relief and came to Oscar's side. Little Ao, if you still treat me as your friend, give me a mushroom sausage. Don't make a fuss, don't let anyone see. Why didn't he say treat him as a brother? HMPH, among the Shrek 7 Devils, nobody was worthy of being God King Tang's brother. At most, they could only be considered a few friends. However, Oscar obviously didn't think that much at this moment, and instead said in a shocked, low voice, Little San, you. Immediately afterward, seeing Tang San's firm eyes that yearned for the 8 spider lances, he instantly understood Tang San's meaning at that moment. quietly produced a mushroom sausage, and shoved it into Tang San's hands. "Little San, come on. I believe you will definitely rescue Xiao Wu," Oscar softly encouraged Tang San. Tang San clenched the mushroom sausage in his hand, knowing that this was his only hope this time to obtain his spirit rings and spirit bones. Tang San directly ate the mushroom sausage in one bite. The sound of eating the mushroom sausage immediately drew Zhao Wuji's attention. Zhao Wuji turned his head to look and saw Tang San eating something. At first, he thought he was just recovering his stamina and didn't plan to meddle much, but immediately afterward, 3 pairs of wings grew out from behind Tang San, and Zhao Wuji instantly realized something was wrong. "Teacher Zhao, I'm sorry, I'm going to go find Xiao Wu." After saying that, Tang San flew away directly. Zhao Wuji blankly watched Tang San fly away directly, failing to react for a moment. By the time he reacted, Tang San had already flown far away. Seeing Tang San fly away, Zhao Wuji had no choice but to take the rest of Shrek's people, ask Oscar for a few more portions of flying mushroom sausage, and prepare to go together to search for Tang San's traces. There was no help for it, after all, Tang San was the son of Clear Sky Du Luo, and he couldn't just ignore him. Damn it, why are the children of these big shots so exhausting to look after? It's way more exhausting than those civilian spirit masters he used to guide before. If it weren't for the fact that your father is someone I can't beat or afford to provoke, if you did something like this, I would have already found a chance to kill you. How do you think those civilian spirit masters in the past died? It was precisely because they were always well-behaved and obedient, not daring to cause trouble. Every day they only knew how to question our Academy's theories, and didn't seem to have any sense of belonging to our Academy at all. Therefore, later on, when they hunted spirit rings, he would take them to dangerous places, tell them it was part of the trial, and then completely ignore them. Wouldn't most of them be killed that way? Otherwise, where would such a high mortality rate come from? It was close to half of the recruited students. Among the students who hadn't graduated, about 60% died because of this. Ordinary spirit beast hunting, even wild spirit masters didn't have such a high mortality rate. Let alone spirit masters with an academy. No matter how irresponsible a teacher was, their mortality rate should still be lower than that of wild spirit masters, right? But miraculously, it was even higher than that of wild spirit masters. Besides the teachers intentionally wanting to get the students killed, what other explanation could there be? This is all Spirit Hall's fault. If it weren't for Spirit Hall's reasons, we wouldn't be able to kill people arbitrarily, but would we need to go through so much trouble? We had to drag them to the Stardow Great Forest and use spirit beasts to kill them. It's the same now. If it weren't for Tang Hao's sake, Tang San would have long been abandoned and ignored by Zhao Wuji. Go ahead and court death however you like. Who the hell cares about you? Did he, Zhao Wuji, really have that much free time? Chapter 52 Tang San finally obtains 8 spider lances. Tang San was currently jogging leisurely toward the place where Xiao Wu had been seized by the Titan giant ape. During the run, Tang San was still trying his best to conserve his physical strength in order to be ready to cope with emergencies at any time. Very soon, under the yearning thoughts of God King Tang, a roadblock on God King Tang's path of searching for Xiao Wu finally appeared before him, a 2,000-year-old man-faced demon spider. Seeing the appearance of the man-faced demon spider, God King Tang finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, things here had not changed. His future sea god's 8 wings should still be here. Along this journey, God King Tang had been constantly worrying that his sea god's 8 wings wouldn't have disappeared as well. Could it be that in this lifetime, he wouldn't have the backing of the sea god and the Asura god behind him at all? Judging from now, he must have been overthinking. There should still be the help of the sea god and the Asura god behind him. The accidents experienced along this journey should just be minor tribulations encountered on the path of rebirth, and in the end, the world would return to the right track. As for why Qian Xunji knew about Tang San's sea god's 8 wings, yet did not come here in advance to seize it beforehand. It was mainly because at this time Qian Xunji still could not defeat the sea god, and the sea god's 8 wings still carried the sea god's divine sense. At this time, it was utterly impossible for Qian Xunji to obtain an external spirit bone carrying the sea god's divine sense without the sea god knowing, so in the end Qian Xunji had no intention of snatching it. After experiencing a period of life and death combat, Tang San finally successfully killed the 2,000-year-old man-faced demon spider before him. Who tilde I wonder if, based solely on my current spirit, I can actually absorb this 2,000-year-old man-faced demon spider. Screw it, I will take a gamble. Anyway, no matter what, I won't die. At worst, the Asura god will just arrange for me to start over on someone else's body. Tang San sat cross-legged, beginning to regulate his own qi. After a while, Tang San opened his eyes and looked at the spirit ring before him. It can begin. Taking a deep breath, Tang San summoned the blue-silver grass spirit in his right hand, sending a summons toward the purple spirit ring in front of him. Then, receiving the summons, the purple spirit ring flew rapidly in the direction of Tang San, and then enshrouded Tang San's body. Immediately afterwards, following the descent of the spirit ring, a massive surge of energy continuously impacted Tang San's body, striking the meridians within Tang San's body. Tang San's body, resembling a tortoise shell, continuously displayed spiderweb-like cracks. Tang San felt a wave of discomfort in his body, feeling as if he was about to explode apart. The Asura god's divine thought on Tang San suddenly sensed a heavy life and death crisis appearing on Tang San, and could not help but awaken. After waking up, the Asura god's divine thought looked at this scene of Tang San absorbing the spirit ring before him, and couldn't help being startled. How was it that Tang San absorbing a spirit ring was almost absorbing himself to death? I clearly remember that the sea god and I arranged the most suitable spirit ring for him on his third spirit ring. Such a situation before our eyes should definitely not occur. What on earth was going on? Could it be that the third spirit ring spirit beast absorbed by Tang San was not the one arranged for him by the sea god? The Asura god inspected the third spirit ring, it was indeed that one. Could it be that Tang San's physical fitness had decreased? The Asura god then inspected Tang San's physical condition and was startled. How had Tang San's physical fitness regressed so much? The Asura god then carefully inspected Tang San's entire body condition again, and finally discovered the root cause of the physical regression. Spirit regression. Why did his spirit regress? Did something go wrong with the root of his spirit? Has some variable occurred? Tang San's body cracks were still continuously expanding at this moment, and a crisp sound suddenly rang out from his body, waking up the Asura god's divine thought that had just been pondering the variables. Looking at Tang San, who was continuously shattering before him, the Asura god's divine thought shook its head and said, "Forget it. Let's solve the problem in front of us first. Leave the rest to be directly transmitted to the main body to solve." The Asura god's divine thought used the Asura divine force to circulate through Tang San's body once, slightly strengthening Tang San's physical fitness. All right, I believe now he should be able to withstand this 2,000-year-old man-faced demon spider spirit ring. Someone is coming. The Asura god's divine thought glanced in the direction of the newcomers, saw that it was the Shrek crowd, gently shook its head, breathed a sigh of relief, and said, "It seems that for now, we don't need to worry about Tang San's safety." After speaking, the Asura god transmitted the situation here to its main body, and then shrank back into Tang San's body. At this time, the Shrek crowd was gathered together, continuously calling out for Tang San's figure. Tang San tilde, where are you? As everyone continued their search, Ningrongrong suddenly sharp-sightedly saw ahead that the figure of a blue-haired youth sitting cross-legged and absorbing a spirit ring looked very much like Tang San, but her own strength was relatively low and she could not see clearly. Therefore, she had to ask Zhao Wuji, who was not far beside her. "Teacher Zhao, look ahead and see if that is Tang San." Hearing this, Zhao Wuji turned around and looked in the direction pointed by Ningrongrong instantly. Seeing that it was indeed Tang San, who was currently absorbing a spirit beast spirit ring. Tang San has been found. Zhao Wuji shouted excitedly, his voice drawing everyone's attention back to look. Thus, they all looked in the direction of Zhao Wuji, instantly seeing a blue-haired youth whose face could not be clearly seen. Immediately afterwards, they followed Zhao Wuji to Tang San's side, and finally saw clearly that the blue-haired youth before them was indeed Tang San. Seeing Tang San absorbing the spirit ring before them, they did not disturb him, but instead tightly guarded his surroundings, quietly waiting for Tang San to finish absorbing the spirit ring. Not long after, a light footstep suddenly resounded in Zhao Wuji's ears. "Who is it?" With an icy gaze, Zhao Wuji looked toward the direction of the sound, and a girl with a scorpion braid slowly appeared in Zhao Wuji's sight. Looking at the newcomer with a face full of surprise, Zhao Wuji couldn't help saying, "Xiao Wu, you didn't die." Immediately after, Xiao Wu explained to the Shrek crowd how she had narrowly escaped death. Although everyone was somewhat reluctant to believe Xiao Wu's explanation, looking at Xiao Wu who had returned alive before them, they ultimately had no choice but to believe her account. Time slowly ticked by. A full 4 hours later, Tang San finally finished absorbing the 2,000-year-old man-faced demon spider spirit ring before him. "Who tilde?" Tang San let out a light breath. This spirit ring had finally been completely absorbed, and the 8 spider lances, the spirit bone of the future sea god's 8 wings, had finally been obtained. Chapter 53, God Realm, Asura. Aren't these the spider legs of the man-faced demon spider? How could they appear on Little San's body? Tang San slowly opened his eyes at this moment, seeing the Shrek crowd before him, and immediately caught sight of Xiao Wu standing among the Shrek crowd. "Xiao Wu, you're back. Did the Titan giant ape hurt you?" Tang San asked with an urgent tone. Third brother, I'm back. Rest assured, I'm fine. That Titan giant ape was delayed by other powerful spirit beasts, and I sneaked back while it wasn't paying attention. Along the way, I even acquired my 3rd spirit ring." Speaking to the end, Xiao Wu stuck her tongue out at Tang San. Xiao Wu, Tang San still wanted to continue expressing their mutual yearning with Xiao Wu, but Zhao Wuji suddenly interrupted at this moment. "Little San, wait a moment, can I ask you a question?" Tang San frowned as he looked at Zhao Wuji before him, and asked perplexedly, Teacher Zhao. "Go ahead and ask. What is it? What is going on with those 8 spider legs behind your back?" Zhao Wuji pointed his finger at the 8 spider legs behind Tang San's back and asked suspiciously. Watching Zhao Wuji point at his 8 spider lances, Tang San immediately understood and explained to Zhao Wuji. "Oh, Teacher Zhao, I'm not too clear about this thing either. It appeared right after I finished absorbing the spirit ring. I can only go back and ask my teacher to see if he knows about it." Of course, Tang San couldn't casually blurt out that this was an external spirit bone second only to 100,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone. To Tang San himself, its value was even more precious than 100,000-year spirit bone. Of course, these things couldn't be spoken of casually. Firstly, it was because Tang San did not trust Zhao Wuji's character. After all, an external spirit bone was something that could be mentioned on par with 100,000-year spirit bone. Tang San didn't believe Zhao Wuji wouldn't be tempted. Even if he knew his father was Clear Sky Duluo, he couldn't guarantee whether Zhao Wuji would harbor malicious thoughts right now. After all, his father wasn't here, and no one could stop him. Secondly, it was because Tang San hadn't learned these things from Grandmaster in the first place. If he were to blurt it out directly, others would inevitably suspect where Tang San had learned it from, and Tang San didn't want to explain too much about this. Therefore, not saying it out loud was simply the best outcome. It seems this matter can only be taken back to ask Grandmaster. Grandmaster is knowledgeable, perhaps he knows what this is. Little freak, can you retract this thing back into your body right now? I can, Teacher Zhao. That's good. In that case, let's return to the academy first. After all, no one knows if that tens of thousands of years old Titan giant ape spirit beast will chase after us along the way. Hearing that the spirit beast might chase them, the Shrek crowd couldn't help but reveal a hint of fear and hurriedly responded. All right, Teacher Zhao, then let's hurry and leave. However, if one observed carefully, they would discover that among the Shrek 7 devils, the fear of Tang San and Xiao Wu was clearly somewhat different from the others. Looking closely, one could even tell that their gazes were quite calm, as if they weren't afraid of this at all. God Realm. Within a magnificent palace, Asura god was engaged in a primal struggle with a female deity. Suddenly, upon receiving the message transmitted by his divine thought, his entire body stiffened involuntarily. Feeling Asura god's movements halt, the female deity underneath could not help asking, "What's wrong? Did something happen in the lower realm?" A soft voice gradually sounded. However, listening closely, one could hear that this voice contained a power that made people fall into depravity. Called back to his senses by this voice, Asura god turned his head to look at Rakshasa god, his old lover before him, and said indifferently, "It's nothing, it's just that the successor I chose seems to have run into some trouble." "Oh Tilda, the successor you chose can still run into problems. Haven't you already plundered half of the luck of Duluo continent and bestowed it upon him? What kind of problem could he possibly have that is worth being known by you, a law enforcer of the god realm?" Lying flat on the bed, Rakshasa god curiously asked Asura god before her. Asura god did not mind the dissatisfaction in Rakshasa god's words and simply said indifferently, "His spirit has degraded." Rakshasa god said, "A spirit degradation shouldn't be a big deal to a law enforcer of the god realm like you. Even if your divine thought doesn't make a move, you should still be able to slowly guide and evolve his spirit back, right? After all, it's not even a god-grade martial soul. If it were just an ordinary spirit degradation, naturally it wouldn't be a big deal, but what if the spirit degradation was caused by the destruction of the spirit's origin?" Rakshasa god frowned slightly and said, "That's impossible. There shouldn't be such a person in the lower realm. Such a person has already stepped into the domain of gods, and at the very least, they should possess the strength of a first-tier god to accomplish this. If there were such a person in the lower realm, they would have long since achieved ascension, who would still stay there." Following closely, Rakshasa god frowned again and said, "You mean that someone within the god realm wants to stop us? After all, even in the god realm, there are only that many individuals with the strength of a first-tier god. How could one suddenly appear in the lower realm? Therefore, it can only be that someone in the god realm wants to stop us. And behind him, there will definitely be the figures of several other god kings. Precisely because of this, I'm curious how my successor's spirit origin bloodline disappeared, and I've also discovered that a large chunk of my successor's luck has clearly vanished. Is this move this time the work of Destruction and his wife, or Evil and his wife? Perhaps the disappearance of luck isn't the work of Destruction and Evil at all. After all, what kind of successor you chose, don't you know yourself? Is he really that kind of selfless, ice-pure and jade-clean person? Perhaps this disappearance of luck was done by himself. Moreover, I estimate that if he truly were that kind of person, his luck might even increase, and that's what you should truly worry about. After all, what you want is merely a puppet Asura god, not an Asura god who has completely mastered the god position of Asura." Asura god fell unusually silent about this for a moment. After a while, he said, "No matter what, for now he is still my successor, and I must always go investigate. I cannot just ignore it. I hope this time it isn't the work of those two, Destruction and Evil. After all, I really don't want to actually fight them." As you wish. I also wish your plan success." Asura god looked at Rakshasa god before him and suddenly thought of something involuntarily. "Hasn't any problem arisen over at your successor Bibi Dong's side? Rest assured, the current Bibi Dong has completely become an evil soul master. That Grandmaster Yu Shaogang is someone who cherishes his reputation and could never accept such a Bibi Dong again. And Bibi Dong paid so much for that Yu Shaogang, even ultimately turning into an evil soul master because of him, yet Yu Shaogang chose to fail her like this. In this regard, as long as I can guide her slightly, do you think Bibi Dong might consequently give birth to the thought of destroying the world out of love turned to hatred? If my influence is added on top of that, you can rest easy regarding Bibi Dong. She can definitely become the best tempering tool for your successor before entering the God realm, helping your successor stabilize his position in the God realm after entering. In that case, that's good. I'll have to trouble you a lot on this aspect. Since you know, shouldn't you compensate me?" Following closely, Rakshasa god wrapped herself around Asura god's body once more, her tone filled with the power of charm and depravity. Asura god gently shook Rakshasa god off his body, and then said to her in a serious tone, "Rakshasa, let's talk about this matter after I return." Chapter 54, Asura's Investigation. Inside Shrek Academy. After listening, Grandmaster carefully looked at the external spirit bone, the 8 spider lances, behind Tang San, and said, "Little San, if I'm not mistaken, that should undoubtedly be an external spirit bone." Tang San hadn't reacted much to this, but Ning Rongrong behind him suddenly exclaimed, "External spirit bone." Ning Rongrong covered her mouth, full of surprise, seemingly not expecting that such an external spirit bone could actually exist. Tang San frowned and asked, "What's wrong, Rongrong? Have you ever heard of this external spirit bone?" Ning Rongrong reacted at this moment, realizing her previous behavior was a bit uncomposed. Third brother. Sorry, I was a bit uncomposed just now, I was just too surprised. I didn't think there really is something like an external spirit bone. I've seen it before in Spirit Hall's Spirit Daily. I heard from Spirit Hall that external spirit bones can continuously absorb external energy as the Spirit Master's cultivation improves, and continuously improve. In the future, it even has the chance to reach the 100,000-year spirit bone level, or even higher. I always thought all of this was just a rumor from Spirit Hall and couldn't be true. I never expected to actually see something like an external spirit bone. Grandmaster nodded, agreeing with Ning Rongrong's view, and said, "Well, some of what Rongrong said about external spirit bones is indeed correct. As far as I know, an external spirit bone does indeed improve as the Spirit Master's cultivation improves. If you can achieve titled Duluo, then this external spirit bone of yours has the possibility of evolving into a spirit bone no weaker than 100,000-year one, and it's not impossible to be even higher in the future. In the Spirit Master's world, there has actually always been a Spirit Master Dream List, and the external spirit bone has always ranked second on it, second only to the nearly impossible to obtain 100,000-year spirit ring. However, most people just treat the external spirit bone as a rumor. They think it's impossible to exist. After all, no one has ever seen it. The others in Shrek Academy present couldn't help but be surprised after hearing this. They really didn't expect it. Tang San's luck could actually be so good that he could directly obtain an external spirit bone during his 3rd spirit ring. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help looking at Tang San with envious gazes. At this time, inside the Supreme Pontiff Palace of Soul Guidance City, the bracelet on Qian Xunji's hand suddenly flashed brilliantly, forming a special space around Qian Xunji, isolating him from the outside world. Is someone investigating me? Is it an investigation from the God realm? Qian Xunji slowly extended his consciousness outside the special space, onto the continent, and found that he couldn't perceive any feeling of being investigated. From the looks of it, this must be an investigation conducted by Asura god. Otherwise, if it were the sea god, I wouldn't be unable to perceive any trace of this investigation. Inside the God Realm's core, Asura god at this time was utilizing the power of the God Realm's core to carefully observe the special changes that had recently taken place on the Duluo continent. Asura god investigated the special changes that had occurred on the Duluo continent in recent days, hoping to explore suspicious points about them from within and find the root cause of their occurrence. However, in the end, no suspicious points were found, nor was any trace of a god found, as if all this was really just the natural evolution of the continent. Asura god's expression was ugly, and he couldn't help conducting another investigation of the Duluo continent, yet this time still nothing suspicious was found. But having no suspicious points is the biggest suspicious point. After all, being able to let Asura god's successor have problems without finding any suspicious points, isn't this the biggest suspicious point itself? Asura god's expression at this moment had completely turned solemn. He was already convinced that behind this incident must be the result of interference from the other few god kings. It seems the mastermind this time really is the means of the other few god kings. But is it evil, or destruction? In Asura god's inner heart, his direction of guess leaned more towards destruction, because compared to evil, destruction was much more righteous and unyielding. If evil had discovered his Asura god's actions, given their past relationship, he would probably only turn a blind eye and not choose to overly regulate. In contrast, this incident was much more likely to be destruction's doing. However, this wasn't certain either. After all, what he did this time was really a bit too excessive, misappropriating the luck of the entire continent, which had seriously violated the rules once established by the entire God Realm Committee. Perhaps evil really intended to manage it to maintain the majesty of the entire God Realm Committee. Inside the Supreme Pontiff Palace, Qian Xunji looked at the shattered bracelet on his hand, took it off, and replaced it with a brand new bracelet. Inside Shrek Academy the next day, when the early morning sunlight shone into Shrek Academy, everyone in Shrek Academy also climbed out of bed one after another. After eating breakfast, they all came to the place Grandmaster had instructed yesterday. Grandmaster had already been standing here for a long time, quietly waiting for the Shrek crowd. Seeing that everyone had arrived here, he stood in front of them and said, "Starting from today, I will conduct devil training on you, officially training your physiques and other abilities." Hearing about devil training, Ningrongrong's eyes couldn't help lighting up, the light within them flickering. Is it finally coming? Those ultimate skills displayed by Tang San. Only as the training progressed, soon, Ningrongrong was disappointed. These weren't those self-created spirit abilities. It was merely a method to exercise the body and cultivate the will. Although it was also very good, it was far behind those self-created spirit abilities. This method's degree of body exercise was about the same as cultivating the intermediate body tempering art for the same amount of time, but it was much more tiring. Although she had to admit that Grandmaster's exercise of the body through these various training methods reached the level of the intermediate body tempering art was impressive, this really wasn't what Rongrong wanted. Ningrongrong didn't know that this training method was actually Spirit Hall's training method from 20 years ago. Bibi Dong of the past had given all of Spirit Hall's knowledge to Yu Shaogang to study, which naturally included Spirit Hall's various past training methods. And Grandmaster Yu, in order to break through the bottleneck of level 30, had even used this set of training methods to train for a period of time. If this set of training methods had been mentioned 20-odd years ago, it would definitely have been considered the #1 training method. Nowadays, it was also a top-tier training method. After all, regarding the overall training methods currently on the Duluo continent, except for Spirit Hall, other forces were equivalent to having just one more intermediate body tempering art, which had similar effects to Grandmaster's training method. Only Spirit Hall's training was somewhat special, with some unique ultimate skills taught. Of course, Qian Xunji couldn't possibly take out his own unique ultimate skills just to spread knowledge, helping the enemy cultivate themselves to rise up. And some top-tier concepts and knowledge, for the sake of confidentiality, only existed among the top echelon of Spirit Hall. Chapter 55, Qian Xunji meets Dugu Bo. A few days later, inside Heaven Do City, Dugu Bo, is this where he lives? Qian Xunji asked the porcupinefish elder beside him. Yes, Your Majesty, the Supreme Pontiff. Recently Dugu Bo has stayed inside the courtyard all this time and has never gone out. Judging from past intelligence, he should be researching some herbs recently to suppress his own toxicity issues. It is estimated that the method to temporarily suppress the toxins given to Dugu Bo by the Supreme Pontiff more than 10 years ago should no longer be usable. Otherwise, Dugu Bo would not have gone without going out to search for a spirit bone for such a long time. It seems that this fellow Dugu Bo can hardly suppress it anymore now. Qian Xunji looked towards the residence ahead with an indifferent gaze and slowly said, "It seems so, Supreme Pontiff. Guard here and do not let anyone else in. Let me go in and see this old friend of mine from the past." After speaking, Qian Xunji stepped into Dugu Bo's courtyard in a single step. Although Dugu Bo was suffering from a toxin backlash and was heavily injured at this time, the perception of a titled Duluo was not something an ordinary spirit master could match. Under Qian Xunji's unmasked presence, the moment Qian Xunji stepped into the courtyard, Dugu Bo had already clearly sensed his figure. "Who is it? Dugu Bo, long time no see." A familiar voice rang in Dugu Bo's ears. Immediately after, a familiar figure suddenly appeared before Dugu Bo's eyes. Seeing this figure, Dugu Bo's heart suddenly started, and his emotions inevitably fluctuated. However, he quickly calmed down, looked straight at the figure ahead, and said flatly, "Does the Supreme Pontiff have any important matters coming this way this time? Or is it simply thinking of coming to take my life?" Looking at Dugu Bo before him, Qian Xunji smiled faintly and said in a gentle tone, as if speaking to an old friend, "It seems that your premonition, Dugu Bo, is quite accurate." Hearing this, Dugu Bo could not help letting out a wry smile and said directly to Qian Xunji before him, "But I would rather my premonition this time were not so accurate." Qian Xunji did not care about Dugu Bo's words and asked him directly with full domineering presence, "Dugu Bo, how do you want to die? Considering your friendship with Chrysanthemum Duluo of my spirit hall for so many years, I can let you choose your method of death. Has the Supreme Pontiff firmly locked me down? No matter what, I am still a titled Duluo. Even if I cannot beat you, can I not even run away? You can try running and see if you can escape." Hearing this, Dugu Bo did not directly choose to escape. Instead, he carefully observed Qian Xunji before him, closely examining the various expressions on his face. Qian Xunji did not mind Dugu Bo's observation. He simply sat down, calmly letting him observe, and quietly awaited Dugu Bo's next choice to see whether he would choose to escape or surrender. After observing for a long time, Dugu Bo still could not obtain any useful information from Qian Xunji's face, and in the end, he could only smile helplessly to ease the atmosphere before them. "Since the Supreme Pontiff is able to come this time, it shows that you have made sufficient preparations to take down me, Dugu Bo. Although I, Dugu Bo, consider my poisonous skills unmatched under heaven and fear no threats below titled Duluo. But since the Supreme Pontiff has also made sufficient preparations, I have no confidence in escaping from the Supreme Pontiff's hands." Qian Xunji smiled faintly, understanding that Dugu Bo had ultimately chosen to surrender and face death, and thus casually accepted the compliment from Dugu Bo, a dying man, saying, "This is truly a wise choice." Dugu Bo let out a wry smile and asked the question he cared about the most right now. "Supreme Pontiff, I wonder if my granddaughter can survive after my death." After asking this question, the palms of Dugu Bo's hands visibly sweated, and the spirit power within his body began to slowly circulate, ready to launch an attack at any time. If Qian Xunji truly could not guarantee his granddaughter's life, even if he had to risk his old life, he would give Spirit Hall a lesson they would never forget for a lifetime. "Rest assured, considering the relationship between your granddaughter and the next generation successor of the Yi family, I will spare your granddaughter's life. However, this will likely require you to do a few things." Speaking to the end, Qian Xunji deliberately paused. When Dugu Bo first heard that his granddaughter could survive for the sake of the Yi family, his palms relaxed somewhat, and his spirit power gradually stopped circulating. But hearing later about what conditions were needed, Dugu Bo's mood obviously grew tense again, yet the spirit power within his body did not start circulating again. After all, he knew the relationship between his granddaughter and Yi Lenglang. Since the Yi family had surrendered to Spirit Hall should also give some face to the Yi family to ensure his granddaughter's life. "I wonder what conditions the Supreme Pontiff requires me to fulfill. I certainly do not want your granddaughter to know that you died at the hands of Spirit Hall. With such a consequence, your granddaughter would resent our Spirit Hall, and in that case, you should know that she would not be able to survive. Therefore, if you want your granddaughter to survive, you must die of illness in front of your granddaughter." Did you hear that? Die of illness. Can you understand my meaning? Hearing this, Dugu Bo immediately knew that Qian Xunji had investigated his family situation and wanted his toxicity to flare up, ultimately dying in front of his granddaughter because of it. Hearing this, Dugu Bo let out a wry smile and said, "Supreme Pontiff, a toxicity flare-up is not something that can just happen so easily. This is simple. This blood crimson swan kiss can help you complete the toxicity flare-up. After taking it, the toxins in your body can surge 100-fold. Do not worry that you will not die. However, to prevent the toxins from spreading after your death, you should let Yi Renqin help you by your side." Dugu Bo looked at the box in his hand and could not help letting out a wry smile. I really have to thank you, Supreme Pontiff, for so thoughtfully arranging a method of death and corresponding props for me. Supreme Pontiff, you really are thoughtful. How virtuous and capable am I, Dugu Bo, that you even prepared the tools for me. However, Your Majesty Supreme Pontiff, Yi Renqin should have also joined your spirit hall, right? Although the last sentence was a question, one could clearly sense that Dugu Bo's tone was stating an affirmative sentence. That is why your granddaughter can survive. Hearing this, Dugu Bo showed an expression of, as expected, and then upon hearing Qian Xunji's words, once again showed a wry smile. He did not know how many wry smiles this was today, it must have been many times. That being said, it seems I, Dugu Bo, should properly thank Yi Renqin and his grandfather-granddaughter pair. As you like, I give you half a month to prepare. Let you and your granddaughter make your final farewells. Do not try to resist, otherwise you should know the future fate of your granddaughter. Dugu Bo hereby thanks the Supreme Pontiff for this time given to me. As for resisting, the Supreme Pontiff can rest assured that I, Dugu Bo, will not do such an unwise thing. I hope so. Chapter 56, The Death of Dugu Bo. Half a month later, inside the mansion of Dugu Bo. At this moment, Dugu Bo was lying on the large bed inside the room, while Yi Renqin beside him was diligently channeling his own spirit power to maintain the current vitality of Dugu Bo. Dugu Yan was kneeling on the ground next to Dugu Bo, crying bitterly at Dugu Bo, saying, "Grandfather, woo-woo, can you really not survive this?" Lying flat on the bed, Dugu Bo comforted the Dugu Yan beside him and said, "All right, Yan, stop crying. I am not dead yet. Why are you weeping like this? You were not like this before. How can grandfather leave with peace of mind if you act like this? All right, smile. Yes, just like that, a smile is enough. Are you not much happier now? Woo-woo, hee, hey, grandfather, look, I am smiling. Can you please not leave?" Dugu Yan forced a smile onto her tear-stained face, but this forced smile paired with her tear-filled face gave people a heart-wrenching feeling. Seeing the current appearance of his granddaughter, Dugu Bo could not help feeling heartbroken, but he quickly calmed down because he had more serious matters to attend to. The upcoming issues concerned the life of Yan, and he could not afford to slack off. Therefore, he said with a serious tone, "Yan, you must remember every single word I say next. Grandfather, please speak." Dugu Yan wiped away her tears and quietly awaited the words of grandfather. "First, after grandfather leaves, you will no longer have grandfather to back you up. You can no longer do things the way you used to, you must learn to keep a low profile." Grandfather, rest assured, I know. I will definitely not engage in any flamboyant behavior from now on." Enduring the deep grief in her heart, Dugu Yan listened carefully to every word spoken by grandfather and responded. "Of course, if anyone bullies you, you do not need to worry too much. Grandfather has entrusted you to Grandfather Yi. If you are truly bullied, just go find Grandfather Yi. Yes, Yan, if anyone bullies you, just come directly to me." Yi Renqin chimed in from the side. I know, Grandfather and Grandfather Yi. Second, Grandfather Yi has joined Spirit Hall, and I have also handed over a precious treasure land to Spirit Hall. I hope the people of Spirit Hall, for the sake of that precious treasure land, will help take care of you. If a major crisis truly arises that Grandfather Yi cannot handle, you can go directly to Spirit Hall. Cough cough, cough. Seeing this, Dugu Yan hurriedly brought a cup of water, gently fed it to grandfather, and repeatedly advised, Grandfather. I know what you have said. Why do you not rest for a while first? After you relax, we can talk more. Hee, silly child, you do not need to comfort me anymore. How could there be a next time? If I do not finish speaking this time, I will not be able to rest easy about you. Cough, cough, cough cough cough. Third, grandfather hopes that you will also join Spirit Hall in the future. That way, with the help of Grandfather Yi, you can receive the best protection and grow up peacefully. And you must not easily trust that little boyfriend of yours, Yu Tianeng. He only pursued you because of grandfather. After grandfather dies, you can spread this news to see if he still likes you. Grandfather, I will join Spirit Hall, but Tianong is not that kind of person. Hearing this, Du Guyan endured the grief in her heart and retorted. Is he that kind of person or not? You can test him according to the method of grandfather, and you will find out. Du Gubo smiled, then softly said to Du Guyan, Silly girl, you are joining Spirit Hall. How could those people in Spirit Hall allow you to like you Tianong of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan? Do you not know the fate of Bibi Dong from a dozen years ago? However, you do not need to worry about this matter, grandfather has already sorted it out for you. The Supreme Pontiff Your Majesty promised me that if you Tianong is truly a gentleman, if he pursues you not because of grandfather, and does not cast you aside or abandon you, then His Majesty the Supreme Pontiff will step in at a critical moment to manipulate him into casting you aside and abandoning you. It does not matter what you Tianong himself wants to do, what matters is what His Majesty the Supreme Pontiff wants him to do. Therefore, you Tianong will definitely fail you. I hope that if you happen to learn the truth of this matter in the future, you will not resent me, your grandfather. However, grandfather truly hopes that you never learn the truth. Do not probe into the truth of anything. Because sometimes, the truth is often even more despairing than lies. Grandfather only hopes that you can live on peacefully in the future, and does not want you to know the truth behind too many things. Hearing the words just spoken by grandfather, Du Guyan hesitated for a moment, but looking at the dying grandfather lying on the bed before her, she immediately agreed. All right, grandfather, do not worry. After you die, I will properly test Tianong. Du Gubo slowly smiled. Following that, the complexion of Du Gubo gradually became ruddy, and his spirit and vitality suddenly became spirited. Grandfather. Du Guyan knew that this was already the flash of brilliance before death of grandfather, and this would also be the final moments of grandfather. Yan, there is one last thing. If you really want to find someone to marry, marry someone with a powerful spirit. Do not let the legacy of the Jade Phosphor Snake continue any longer. I do not want the spirit of our family to continue to be passed down in pain. Weeping, Du Guyan replied, grandfather, I know. I will no longer let the pain of our family continue. Please do not die. Okay. Du Gubo smiled without speaking, gazing up at the sky as if seeing the figure of Qian Xunji through the rafters. Supreme Pontiff Your Majesty, I have completed your request. I hope you can let Yan live in peace. After thinking this, the life aura of Du Gubo quickly receded, and his whole body appeared somewhat drowsy. He slowly raised his hand, still wanting to touch the face of his granddaughter one last time, but no matter what, he could not reach it. Seeing this, Du Guyan slowly leaned her own face against the hands of Du Gubo. Touching the warm and smooth face of his granddaughter, Du Gubo could not help recalling the scenes of Du Guyan following behind him when she was a child. A smile slowly rose at the corners of his mouth, and then he slowly closed his eyes. Grandfather. Seeing this scene, Du Guyan cried out in complete breakdown and then fainted. Seeing this, Yi Renxin had no choice but to step forward to treat Du Guyan who had already fainted. Standing in the sky, Qian Xunji watched Du Gubo die below, feeling a sense of loss in his heart. Qian Xunji looked up and gazed at the azure sky above, but for some reason, his heart could not feel happy at all. Qian Xunji had also felt a trace of bewilderment in his heart at first, hesitating back and forth between subduing Du Gubo and killing Du Gubo. Upon determining that he did not have the conditions to completely persuade Du Gubo, Qian Xunji immediately decided to kill Du Gubo. Since he could not ensure that Du Gubo would be completely at his disposal, he had to ensure that Du Gubo could never threaten him. Could never threaten his faction. After all, Spirit Hall was already an irresistible trend on Duluo continent. For Spirit Hall, adding one Du Gubo would not change much. Conversely, for the enemy's opposite Spirit Hall, adding one Du Gubo would mean much more than just gaining one Du Gubo. Therefore, to Spirit Hall, Du Gubo held little value, but to his enemies, Du Gubo was extremely valuable. Death was the final destination Qian Xunji bestowed upon him. Chapter 57. Qian Xunji suddenly disappeared from the sky at this moment, and when he appeared once more, it was beside Du Gubo's bed. Yi Renqin had just finished treating Du Guyan when he saw His Majesty the Supreme Pontiff appear before him. Startled, he hurriedly bowed in salute and said, "Your Majesty the Supreme Pontiff. Do you plan to return to the Supreme Pontiff Palace with me first, or stay in Heaven-Do City for the time being to take care of your granddaughter and Dugu Bo's granddaughter?" "Your Eminence the Supreme Pontiff, I plan to stay in Heaven-Do City for the time being to look after my granddaughter Lengleng and Dugu Bo's granddaughter Dugu Yan. After all, the matter between Dugu Yan and Yu Tianong is not yet concluded." Since that is the case, then you may stay in Heaven-Do City first. If any problems arise regarding the matter between Dugu Yan and Yu Tianong, I await your arrival in the Supreme Pontiff Palace at any time." Hearing this, Yi Renqin bowed slightly once more and expressed his thanks, saying, "Yi Renqin thanks Your Eminence the Supreme Pontiff here for your great kindness." Qian Xunji did not say anything more. Casting one last glance into the Dugu residence, he left this place. The matters here were concluded, it was time to return to Spirit Hall. In less than half an hour, Qian Xunji had already crossed half the continent and arrived at the gates of Spirit Hall, looking at its magnificent and imposing entrance. Qian Xunji couldn't help but think of the glory of Spirit Hall, as well as the younger generation of Spirit Hall. Right, how was the strength of the current younger generation of Spirit Hall? Their strength shouldn't be weaker than the students currently in Shrek Academy, right? Thinking of this, Qian Xunji couldn't help but want to go and see the current younger generation of Spirit Hall, to check out their present strength. Acting on his thought, Qian Xunji took a single step forward and arrived directly inside the Soul Guidance Technology Academy within Soul Guidance City. The surrounding students seemed not to notice Qian Xunji's arrival, continuing to do what they had been doing just moments before. Qian Xunji didn't mind. He had concealed his aura, so it was normal that they couldn't see him. After all, his visit this time wasn't specifically to disturb them, but merely to inspect the strength of the younger generation of Spirit Hall here. Most of the younger generation personnel of Spirit Hall here were somewhat weaker than Wuhan Academy in terms of spirits, but their research level in spirit tools far exceeded that of Wuhan Academy. In this aspect, it was somewhat like the Sun Moon Royal Soul Engineer Academy from 10,000 years later. Qian Xunji closely observed the internal conditions of this Soul Guidance Technology Academy and immediately spotted the three people who logically should be the golden generation of Spirit Hall, Huliena and the others. At this moment, they were among the Soul Guidance Academy, quietly delving into their spirit tool technology. The spirits of Huliena and the other two were all quite good, but the attack power of both Huliena's and Xieyu's spirits was relatively weak, so later on, both of them transferred from Wuhan Academy to study in the Soul Guidance Technology Academy. As for Yan, that bootlicker, he came along with Huliena. These three were among the younger generation of the Soul Guidance Technology Academy this time, and the Academy claimed that most of their spirit tool research was progressing quite well. However, the Academy was wrong. Yan's spirit tool technology was obviously terrible. Watching the materials around Yan breaking down from time to time, Qian Xunji's mouth twitched slightly. It seemed the Academy must have seen that Yan's strength was decent and specially opened a back door for him. Shaking his head, he banished Yan's matters from his mind and carefully observed the spirit tool technology being researched by Xieyue and Huliena. Huliena possessed a powerful mental force and truly had great talent in the research and development of spirit tools. The strongest spirit tools she developed were almost able to withstand a few full-strength attacks from a spirit emperor, and Xieyu's were not much different. Observing the remaining younger generation around him once more, he felt slightly relieved. It seemed there was no need to worry about these people in the Soul Guidance Technology Academy. Following closely behind, Qian Xunji took another step, directly using spatial transformation from within Soul Guidance City to arrive at Wuhan Academy in Spirit City. The younger generation of Wuhan Academy mostly consisted of descendants from the various elder families. This was also normal. After all, the descendants of the various elder families mostly possessed super spirits, and second to none were top-tier spirits. In this aspect, very few people could truly compare. Therefore, throughout past generations of the Soul Master Tournament, whenever there were descendants of the elder families, the younger generation in the Spirit Hall Academy would mostly have those elder descendants step forward to participate in the competition. During Bibi Dong's era, it was simply because of the conflict between the Supreme Pontiff Palace and the Elder Hall that the elder descendants did not participate. At this moment, the 7 people in Wuhan Academy were mostly working hard to cultivate some self-created spirit abilities that Qian Xunji had comprehended after becoming a god. However, it could be seen that the descendants of the various elder families were obviously not very attentive towards those palm techniques and fist techniques created by Qian Xunji himself. Only 2 support system spirit masters were consistently and diligently cultivating them. However, they were all earnestly cultivating the footwork. After all, for something like footwork, most spirits could make use of it. Unlike the offensive methods created by Qian Xunji, which only some support system spirit masters could use. Having carefully inspected their footwork cultivation once more, Qian Xunji felt that using it to dodge Tang San's hidden weapons was completely unproblematic. Once Tang San's hidden weapons were evaded, that match against Shrek Academy was already equivalent to winning half of it. After all, Shrek's primary winning method was Tang San's hidden weapons. Qian Xunji felt that Spirit Hall shouldn't lose, unless Asura God truly lost all shame and personally possessed Tang San to fight on behalf of the Spirit Hall youngsters. After reviewing the situation of Spirit Hall's younger generation, Qian Xunji let out a sigh of relief and returned to the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Your Eminence the Supreme Pontiff. There is a situation. Before Qian Xunji had even warmed his seat here, an elder of Spirit Hall suddenly rushed in to report the situation to him. Looking at the elder's flustered appearance, Qian Xunji frowned and said faintly, "What is there to panic about? You were an elder of Spirit Hall. What kind of situation could make you panic like this? Just report it slowly." Seeing Qian Xunji's calm and composed demeanor, the elder of Spirit Hall felt the panic within his heart soothe slightly. That's right, with Lord Supreme Pontiff around, what trouble couldn't be resolved? Wasn't it just an evil soul master at the Super Duluo level? Your Eminence the Supreme Pontiff, through our Spirit Hall's investigation, we have discovered that an evil soul master of the Super Duluo realm is slaughtering spirit beasts and spirit masters of our Spirit Hall on the Duluo continent. Dozens of our Spirit Hall's spirit masters above the Spirit Emperor rank who went out have already been hunted down. What? The traces of an evil soul master of the Super Duluo realm have been discovered. What on earth are those inspection personnel of Spirit Hall doing to actually allow such a massive oversight? They only discovered it now. Upon hearing this, Qian Xunji was clearly startled quite a bit by this message. An evil soul master of the Super Duluo realm had only been discovered now. Were those inspection personnel of Spirit Hall just eating free meals? Chapter 58, Qian Xunji's Myriad Worlds Reincarnation. Supreme Pontiff, please calm your anger. Calm down. How do you expect me to calm down? Are all those Spirit Hall investigators good for nothing? Supreme Pontiff, according to our investigation, that person didn't seem to be on Duluo continent before. It appears they came out from Slaughter City. Slaughter City? How is that possible? I remember that to get out of Slaughter City, one has to go through 100 trials. Could someone have completed the 100 trials of Slaughter City again? Supreme Pontiff, according to our investigation, that person should have indeed passed the 100 trials of the Slaughter system. She once used the Slaughter God domain of Slaughter City. It was discovered by our Spirit Hall personnel. Do they still have bodies left behind? Reporting to the Supreme Pontiff, there are still bodies. Take me to see the bodies of those Spirit Hall personnel. Yes. Afterwards, this elder directly led Qian Xunji in front of the bodies of the Spirit Hall personnel one by one. Looking at the corpses before him, Qian Xunji had the elder of Spirit Hall withdraw first. Qian Xunji directly mobilized the divine force within his body and summoned their souls out. For some unknown reason, that evil soul master did not devour the souls along with them, which also gave Qian Xunji a very good opportunity to directly question the souls about the situation at that time. At this moment, a soul was slowly summoned over by Qian Xunji. Opening its eyes and looking at Qian Xunji before it, the soul hurriedly wanted to kneel down to pay respects to Qian Xunji. but it found that it seemed unable to kneel, as if floating in midair. Immediately afterwards, it saw its own body lying right beside it, giving it a start, and the scene before its death instantly surfaced in its mind. "You're awake." Qian Xunji's voice suddenly broke the soul's train of thought, startling the soul as well. "Supreme Pontiff, can you see me? It was I who summoned your soul here. Do you think I can see you?" The soul before him finally confirmed that his Supreme Pontiff could see him. "Tell me, who on earth killed you all? What did their spirit and appearance look like?" When Qian Xunji said this, the soul suddenly recalled the scene before its death, its face turning terrified as it said, "The Holy Maiden. It's the Holy Maiden. The Holy Maiden killed us." Qian Xunji frowned and said, "You can't just talk nonsense. I've been well aware of Qian Ning's whereabouts these past few days. She hasn't even left Soul Guidance City. How could she have killed you?" Realizing that its statement at the moment was somewhat inaccurate, the soul added, "Apologies, Supreme Pontiff. The Holy Maiden I speak of is the former Holy Maiden Bibi Dong, that traitorous Holy Maiden of Spirit Hall." Qian Xunji was still somewhat dissatisfied and said, "The former Holy Maiden Bibi Dong died long ago. I personally ordered her execution on the spirit platform. How could she still survive in this world?" The soul was also somewhat doubtful about this matter, but still firmly said, "Supreme Pontiff, although I find this somewhat hard to believe as well, I clearly saw that her spirit and appearance were simply identical to the Holy Maiden's. If you don't believe me, Supreme Pontiff, summon those who traveled with me and ask them whether it was really the Holy Maiden." Hearing the soul say this, Qian Xunji couldn't help but be somewhat confused. Could Bibi Dong really not be dead? Did she really kill all these people? However, Qian Xunji was still somewhat puzzled at the moment, so he summoned several other souls and asked them who killed them. After the questioning was complete, Qian Xunji finally confirmed that it should indeed be the former Spirit Hall Holy Maiden Bibi Dong who killed them. However, why on earth is Bibi Dong still alive? Could it be that I really didn't kill Bibi Dong back then? No, I am extremely certain that the one I killed back then was indeed that Bibi Dong. In that case, Qian Xunji raised his head again, glanced at these people whose souls had just been summoned by him, and thought, in that case, it must be because of a god. I just don't know whether it's that Rakshasa god or not. If it were the Rakshasa god, then what on earth was her purpose in resurrecting Bibi Dong? Could it be that she truly had no other inheritor choices besides Bibi Dong? Thinking of this, Qian Xunji's head ached a bit. After sending the souls of these people before him off to reincarnation, Qian Xunji walked out of the room. Watching Qian Xunji walk out, the elder couldn't help looking over. "Supreme Pontiff. You have come out. Do not handle this matter arbitrarily for the time being. Try to restrict the spirit masters of Spirit Hall from going out." "Yes, Supreme Pontiff." Qian Xunji returned to his own Supreme Pontiff Palace. It seems he needed to enhance his own strength once again. The fifth divine trial was also about to take place. Thinking of the divine trial, Qian Xunji couldn't help shivering. "Sigh, bravely face it then." Thinking of this, Qian Xunji handed the affairs of Spirit Hall over to Qian Xunshan, then directly closed his eyes and began preparing for the divine trial. When Qian Xunji opened his eyes again, the scene before him had turned into a place of green mountains and clear waters with an azure blue sky, resembling a paradise away from the world. This was a small world obtained by Qian Xunji from his third divine trial. Compared to the outside world, the time flow rate here was at a ratio of 1:1000, so every time Qian Xunji wanted to create his own spirit ability, he would run to this small space. Qian Xunji's fourth trial was also entered from here, otherwise, Qian Xunji would have wasted a very long time in the outside world. Because after the fourth trial, the time required for the trial increased significantly. After the fourth trial, a full 2 years had passed in this small world. Open the divine trial. The fifth divine trial. Myriad worlds reincarnation. During the first 1000 reincarnations, the challenger will not possess any past memories during each reincarnation process. However, after the reincarnation ends, the challenger will remember the memories of their reincarnation. Upon returning, the challenger will have 1 day to adjust their memories. From the 1000th to the 4000th reincarnation, during each reincarnation process, the challenger will have the opportunity to possess a small portion of their past memories, including past reincarnation memories. Upon returning, the challenger will have 3 days to adjust their memories. From the 4000th to the 7000th reincarnation, the challenger has the opportunity to possess most of their past memories. Upon returning, the challenger will have 5 days to adjust their memories. From the 7000th to the 10,000th reincarnation, the challenger has the opportunity to obtain all memories. Upon returning, the challenger will have 7 days to adjust their memories. The memories obtained depend on your strength within the reincarnation world. The higher the strength, the more memories can be retrieved. The memories will be chosen to be given to the challenger in batches. This is to protect the challenger's brain so that it won't be directly destroyed by this massive torrent of memories entering the brain. Please also understand this, challenger, and prepare for the reincarnation. By passing the conditions, the challenger can find their true self within 1 month after the 10,000th reincarnation. Qian Xunji took a deep breath and said, "I am ready." Directly open the divine trial. Chapter 59, Qian Xunji's myriad reincarnations. In your first life, you were born. You were born into a fairly well-off family. You were the eldest child in the family, named Wu Ji. A few years later, a younger brother was born to you, named Wu Song. Your childhood was ordinary and happy. As you two grew up, you fell in love with a woman named Pan Jinlian. You spent a hefty sum as a betrothal gift to bring her home and make her your wife. However, after marrying her, you realized that she did not love you. You knew you were not good looking, so you endured it and did not argue with her often. Yet, she frequently associated with local thugs and hooligans. Seeing that if this went on, you would eventually be cheated on by these hoodlums, you decisively moved away with her. But even after moving, she did not settle down. She often took advantage of being drunk to seduce your younger brother. Fortunately, your brother was upright and refused to accept his sister-in-law. You breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that after this, your wife Pan Jinlian would settle down. But you never expected that after your brother rejected Pan Jinlian, she found another man. Honest and dutiful, you still went out every day selling your baked cakes, entirely unaware of the cuckold's hat on your head. The man who cuckolded you was named Qian Xunji. He was a famous wealthy man in your town. Qian Xunji was handsome, tall, imposing, and rich. Through a chance encounter, he met Pan Jinlian, and from then on, the two engaged in a secret affair. Afterward, when you found out about this, rage surged within you. Egged on by a foolish accomplice, you grabbed a shoulder pole and stormed off to catch the adulterers in the act. However, you clearly didn't expect that Qian Xunji's fighting skill far exceeded yours. You were no match for him and ended up severely beaten instead. Afterward, lying in bed while Pan Jinlian tended to you, you stubbornly threatened her, saying your brother would avenge you. This only solidified Pan Jinlian's resolve to kill you. In the end, Pan Jinlian whispered in your ear the last words you would ever hear in that life. "Da Lang, it's time to drink your medicine." At this moment, Qian Xunji received Wu Ji's memories. He quickly finished absorbing them, and his mental force expanded further, but this expanded mental force was quite impure. A few minutes later, Qian Xunji purified his mental force and opened his eyes. He slowly recovered from the reincarnation. His own consciousness completely suppressed Wu Delong's consciousness. After all, Wu Delong was ultimately just a mortal. His mind power wasn't strong to begin with. After resting for a moment, Qian Xunji said to the God trial space, "Start the second life." The second life is about to begin. In your second life, you were born. Your parents named you Wu Song, and you had an older brother named Wu Ji. You died. After Qian Xunji finished absorbing the memories, the corner of his mouth twitched. Would the next one be Pan Jinlian? And the one after that, Qian Xunji? Good grief. Is this making him experience everyone's perspective? He shook his head, casting the thoughts out of his mind. Start the third life. The third life is about to begin. You were born. You were a girl, and your parents named you Pan Jinlian. You died. You died at the hands of your brother-in-law. After absorbing the memories, Qian Xunji was completely speechless. Was his reincarnated life really this colorful? Start the fourth life. By now, Qian Xunji was prepared to be Examen Qing in this life. However, life clearly wouldn't let things go as Qian Xunji wished. You were born, named Li Ping'er. You were Examen Qing's seventh wife, as well as his favorite wife. You died. Qian Xunji was dumbfounded. So it's just stuck on Examen Qing, huh? Done with water margin, now moving on to Jin Ping Mei. Start the fifth life. You were born. You were the emperor's son, his favorite child. You died. You died in the struggle for imperial power, at the hands of your beloved older brother. Qian Xunji breathed a sigh of relief. Finally past that hurdle. Start the sixth life. Start the seventh life. Start the eighth life. Start the 999th life. You were born. When you were very young, a group of evil people arrived here, slaughtering indiscriminately and absorbing blood. Your parents were killed by them because of this. They refused to leave for a long time, searching for survivors. Just as they were about to discover you, a blonde-haired man descended from the sky and saved you. He completed your spirit awakening for you and took you as his disciple. From then on, you lived a life you never dared to dream of before. Until the arrival of a man completely changed everything. His name was Yu Shaogang. His spirit was barely stronger than a trash spirit, yet he claimed he had been searching for a solution regarding spirits. You were attracted by his perseverance. You encouraged him, telling him that if he couldn't walk the path of spirit cultivation, he could pursue the path of theory. A light seemed to spark in his eyes, but it quickly dimmed. He said he couldn't possibly learn that much spirit knowledge because it was all monopolized by powerful factions. You comforted him and gave him part of Spirit Hall's knowledge to study. Later, you continuously provided him with various theoretical knowledge from Spirit Hall, and he kept learning it. As he studied these theories, he gradually memorized them. You were gradually amazed by his knowledge, believing he was already a master of theory. You completely forgot that all this knowledge had been provided by yourself, and he had merely memorized it. As you two grew closer, you realized you had fallen in love with him. You became his girlfriend. However, your master stopped you, so you wanted to elope with him. You wanted to be with him forever. At that moment, your beast of a master violated you and threatened you using your lover. You had no choice but to endure it all in humiliation, quietly awaiting an opportunity for revenge. Your revenge succeeded. And having succeeded, you gained the favor of the Rakshasa god, receiving her god trial. As long as you passed it, you could inherit her god position. You died. Having inherited the Rakshasa god position, you died at the hands of that, pure, unsullied, selfless, sea god Tang. After Qian Xunji finished accepting the memories of this life, his expression turned rather odd. He hadn't expected to become Bibi Dong in this life. He couldn't help thinking, does this count as me violating myself? Although in his memories he had turned into a woman and suffered plenty of unpleasant encounters, being violated by himself seemed to be a first. Wait, that's not right. No, that's wrong too. If counting the time with Wu Delong and Pan Jinlian, this should be the second time. Chapter 60, Qian Xunji's Myriad Lives of Reincarnation. Qian Xunji paused to compose himself, then resumed refining this mental force, sorting through these thoughts to recover his true self. To be honest, in the beginning, Qian Xunji could easily find his true self. However, as the memories of reincarnation accumulated, it began taking him some time to recover his true self. Only now did Qian Xunji realize why he was allowed to retain a portion of his past memories after the 1000th life. It was precisely to help him better sort through his previous memories. Every added lifetime of memory was a trial for Qian Xunji. Reviewing and confronting his past time and time again was a process that sometimes truly annoyed Qian Xunji. At times, Qian Xunji really wanted to immerse himself in the reincarnation memories of the divine test, where everything he desired was fulfilled, power, lust, wealth, and his ideals were all realized. Even though Qian Xunji wasn't a vulgar person at heart, what seasoned cadre could withstand such a temptation? Not interested in women? No problem. Interested in money? Not interested either. That's fine too. What about power? Interested in that? If not, still no problem. You're human, right? There must be something you're interested in. Within the memories of reincarnation, it could definitely dig out whatever interested you the most, identify your ideals, and let you achieve them. If you're an otaku who loves 2D anime waifus, what if I send those 2D waifus to you, would you accept? What if you prefer an immortal master? Then she is an immortal master. What if you prefer 2D? Then she is 2D. How about it? Could you withstand such temptation? If Qian Xunji were not a staunch Marxist who firmly believed that the world is material and that all of this was an illusion, he might have fallen long ago. Yet every time he recited Marxism, Qian Xunji couldn't help but wonder in confusion, how on earth did he undergo transmigration to the Duluo continent then? Whenever he thought of this, Qian Xunji would tell himself not to overthink it. He still had to firmly believe that all this was just an accident, that the world was still material, and that those were still just illusions. Except for the fact that his transmigration to the Duluo continent was real. Except for the fact that his transmigration to the Duluo continent was real. A day later, before Qian Xunji could fully catch his breath, the divine test for his 1000th life began once again. Qian Xunji sighed, having no choice but to face this divine test once more. 3 months later in the outside world, Qian Xunji finally completed his reincarnation. Myriad lives of reincarnation, it turned out it didn't just mean 10,000 lifetimes. Furthermore, sometimes it was even more than that. A single life's reincarnation could potentially take millions or even hundreds of millions of years. For instance, in one lifetime, Qian Xunji became Mengpo of the Netherworld. Every time he went to resign, Yanwang would always tell him, "Drink a bowl of Mengpo soup before you go." And moments later, he would find himself back at that post again. Sigh. If a special event hadn't happened later that sent him into reincarnation, he would never have escaped that place in his entire life. In certain special worlds, a single reincarnation wasn't complete until one's true spirit was completely wiped out. Erasing a true spirit took ordinary people dozens of lifetimes. If Qian Xunji's cultivation were higher, he could even directly undergo 10,000 lifetimes of reincarnation there, or even 100,000 lifetimes. Moreover, if it were just that, it would have been fine, but sometimes Qian Xunji not only had to undergo reincarnation, but also repeat his past lives. Some might say, isn't repeating past lives just helping Qian Xunji recover his memories? But it truly wasn't. Sometimes, after Qian Xunji repeated a lifetime, he would return only to discover that it was merely a reincarnation within his myriad lives of reincarnation. He couldn't help but question the reality of this world. Was he still trapped within the myriad lives of reincarnation? It was just like Lu Zichao in I apartment after being hypnotized, ultimately unable to distinguish his real world. This feeling could truly drive one to despair at times, pushing one into madness. Qian Xunji already felt that after undergoing so many reincarnations, he was no longer human. He was truly, gradually becoming a god. Not a Duluo god, nor one of those love-addled wild gods who said things like, "I will slaughter everyone under heaven for you." Or, "If the 3 realms are gone, I'll just recraft them." He was becoming one of those righteous gods of the heavenly court from before Queen Mother of the West underwent reincarnation, before Chenxiang changed the heavenly rules. A righteous god of the heavenly court from an era where immortals loving would bring turmoil to the 3 realms, an era where immortals were forbidden to fall in love. Of course, compared to those figures, his strength was still very weak. But his realm had already reached that level. Having experienced so much, what Qian Xunji felt most was not the surge in his mental force, though his mental force had indeed skyrocketed, to the point where he could now clash mentally with Asura God King, with the winner uncertain. After all, undergoing 10,000 lifetimes of reincarnation was not in vain. Qian Xunji always felt that this Chaos God position was trying to groom him into an emotionless tool. Moreover, the closer he got to the Chaos God position, the more Qian Xunji felt his emotions growing faint. Human emotions were vanishing, and the god was arriving. Qian Xunji knew that even if he regretted accepting this god position now, it was already too late. Or rather, its plan had already succeeded halfway. Sometimes, 10,000 lifetimes of reincarnation could truly erase most of a person's emotions. All past familial love and romantic love were unimportant. To a god, these were unnecessary emotions. And Qian Xunji had to admit that it had chosen the right person. Although Qian Xunji had always cared deeply about his family and career, it was undeniable that his ideal had always been an emotionless Tao similar to the heavenly Tao. He had always hoped to exist in a state of absolute rationality like the heavenly Tao. This was Qian Xunji's ideal. Now that his ideal was right before his eyes, how could Qian Xunji easily give it up? In this regard, no one could stop Qian Xunji. Whoever stood in his way was his enemy, and he would kill them. When it came to women, money, or power, Qian Xunji could endure staying away from them. However, before the sole opportunity to become something like the heavenly Tao, Qian Xunji could never resist reaching out. It was like a lustful fiend who hadn't touched a woman in over a decade suddenly seeing a beauty stripped naked right in front of him. Could he hold back from touching her? And sometimes, one had to admit that when your ideal was right in front of you with a chance of realization, everything else was unimportant to you. Just like if your dream was to become a billionaire, and now there was an opportunity within arm's reach that guaranteed success, would you give it up? Even if it meant selling everything you owned. Chapter 61, Yu Tianong and Du Guyan. Inside Shrek Academy. Senior brother Qin Ming, can we really join Heaven Do Academy? Of course. You junior brothers and junior sisters are all so outstanding. I've always led the students at the Imperial Do Academy, and I used to think their talents were quite good. But in front of you, they are nothing. If you were of the same age, they wouldn't stand a chance. Therefore, I believe if you really join Heaven Do Academy, the Board of Education members would be more than happy to accept you. Hearing Qin Ming's praise, the Shrek crowd couldn't help but feel a bit lightheaded with pride. Meanwhile, the members of Imperial Do Academy listening to Qin Ming's praise of the Shrek crew were all filled with dissatisfaction, except for Yu Tianong. Du Guyan even said directly, HMPH, if teacher Qin Ming hadn't forbidden me from using my fourth spirit ability, how could they have won? Hearing Du Guyan's words, Yu Tianong calmly raised the teacup on the table, took a sip, and immediately retorted, that Tang San clearly has a way to counter your poison. Even if you could defeat the others with your poison, could you possibly defeat Tang San with it? HMPH, why couldn't I? That Tang San only has the ability to deal with my ordinary snake poison. My fourth spirit ability is nothing like ordinary snake poison. How do you know if he can solve it? Maybe Tang San has no detoxification method for it at all. Wouldn't they just lose straight away then? TCH. Maybe he actually does. And Du Guyan, don't overestimate your own strength too much. Even I can withstand your poison for a while, let alone Tang San. Yu Tianong, what do you mean by that? Is this how a captain acts? Are you still the captain of our Imperial Do team? Why are you always speaking up for outsiders? I'm just telling the truth. You really can't defeat that Tang San. Yu Tianong said with an indifferent expression. Then can you defeat him? Du Guyan sneered. Who said I could defeat him? I can't defeat him either. That Tang San is too formidable. After saying that, Yu Tianong added another sentence. Besides, Du Guyan, don't speak to me in that tone. Your grandfather has long been dead. No one is going to pamper you anymore. If it weren't for Lenglang, HMPH. Yu Tianong stopped there without continuing, but everyone present understood what he meant. Hearing this, Du Guyan exploded on the spot. Yu Tianong, do you want a fight? Fight if you want, who's afraid of who? I'm just afraid that the more you fight, the more you'll become like that dead grandfather of yours and die young. When that time comes, there will be no one left in your family to carry on the bloodline. I wonder if your grandfather would be heartbroken if he knew from beyond the grave. Yi Lenglang couldn't listen anymore either. What Yu Tianong said was truly too much, insulting senior Du Gubo. She also understood that if this went on, her best friend would suffer the loss. After all, if a real fight broke out, how could an ordinary control system spirit master fight against an attack system spirit master? So she hurriedly spoke up to stop them. All right, Yan Yan, stop talking. Let's go back to our dorm room first. With that, Yi Lengling directly dragged the furious Du Guyan into her room. TCH. Seeing Du Guyan being dragged away by Yi Lengling, Yu Tianeng looked at the direction Du Guyan left with disdain. When Du Guyan saw this, she almost broke free from Yi Lengling's grip. However, she ultimately endured it. After all, Yu Tianeng was right, if she really died, her grandfather would truly have no bloodline left. Seeing Du Guyan leave, Yu Tianeng also felt bored and left the place. The rest of the people from Heaven Do Academy looked at each other, not knowing what to do. To be honest, ever since learning about Du Gubo's death, Yu Tianeng's inner grief was no less than Du Guyan's. After all, Du Gubo was a key benefactor Yu Tianeng had chosen to help him ascend to the position of sect master. With him gone just like that, it was hard for Yu Tianeng not to feel heartbroken. Besides, his main network resource was only Du Gubo. With Du Gubo dead, and most of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan's network resources resting with his younger brother Yu Tianxin over at Blue Lightning Academy, his chances of inheriting the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan were practically hopeless. Therefore, Yu Tianeng couldn't help feeling somewhat despondent and giving up. Whatever happens, happens. None of it matters to Yu Tianeng anymore anyway. Meanwhile, inside Yi Lengling's room. Lengling, I must have been blind to ever like Yu Tianeng in the first place. After saying that, Du Guyan threw herself directly into Yi Lengling's arms and wept quietly. All right, Yan Yan, don't be sad anymore. Look on the bright side, at least you haven't married Yu Tianeng yet. Isn't it a good thing that you saw his true colors early? Lengling, you're right. No matter what, you will stay by my side, right? Yan Yan, don't worry. No matter what, I will stay with you. So don't be sad anymore. Yi Lengling gently wiped away the tears from Du Guyan's face in her arms and offered soft words of comfort. Lengling, I believe you. After calming down a bit, Du Guyan added, Lengling, that Tang San is really too much. After the match, he actually forcefully dragged you over to heal their side. Hearing this, Yi Lengling's expression also chilled, but she quickly calmed down and warned Du Guyan sternly, Yan Yan, you'd better not provoke that Tang San. The people from Spirit Hall protecting me in secret told me that behind Tang San stands the Clear Sky Duluo Tang Hao, who is wanted by Spirit Hall. Ah, the Clear Sky Duluo. Didn't Spirit Hall say he's an evil soul master? Yan Yan. So for now, it's best you don't mess with him. When they take part in the Soul Master tournament, Spirit Hall will wipe them all out in one fell swoop. Lengling, I understand. A few days later. Dean Flender, please rest assured. When I return to the Academy this time, I will definitely convince the board members to accept our Shrek Academy students. I will respectfully await everyone's arrival at Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Qin Ming, take care of yourself. Once we wrap things up here at Shrek Academy, we will immediately set off for Heaven Do City. Hopefully, you can convince the board members at Heaven Do Academy to accept us. Dean, I will. Don't worry. Also, goodbye, Dean. Goodbye, junior brothers and junior sisters. Yi Lengling watched coldly at the figures of Qin Ming and the Shrek crowd ahead. Shrek Academy entering Heaven Do Academy. What a joke. Would those spoiled noble youths in Heaven Do Imperial Academy allow them in? Would they tolerate these Shrek people coming to snatch away their spots? Furthermore, given the troublemaking style of the Shrek group, they hardly seemed like the type to behave obediently in the future. With all that, could they really get into Heaven Do Academy? Chapter 62 Conflict between Shrek and Shui Bang. Headmaster, up ahead is Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Up ahead already. It really wasn't easy coming all this way. Yeah, we've finally arrived. It seems we can have a good rest now. My evil fire has been accumulating for several months already. I can finally find a place to vent it this time. HMPH, Fatty, you only know about women every day. Be careful that one day in the future you die on a woman's belly. Dai Mubai sneered. Ha ha ha. PFF tilde. Everyone from Shrek burst into laughter. But right on their way to the Shrek Academy, before they had walked a few steps, someone blocked their path. "Hey, where are you guys from? Why are you appearing here?" Several students from Heaven Do Academy suddenly appeared in front of the Shrek group, observing the people from Shrek Academy before them with vigilant expressions. "We are from Shrek Academy. Invited by your academy, we are here specifically for an exchange." Seeing the tattered clothing of the Shrek group, the leading prince Shui Beng said with full disdain, "With outfits like yours that look like beggars, you still want to enter our academy for an exchange? Scram quickly, or we will resort to force." How could the Shrek group be people to be trifled with? Hearing these words, they flew into a rage on the spot. Dai Mubai directly used the iron fists in his hands to fiercely beat up Prince Shui Beng in front of him. Seeing Shui Beng being beaten, the others also stepped forward to help on the spot. Dai Mubai was surrounded by the others, but he wasn't flustered at all, activating his spirit and knocking them down one by one with a single punch. Are the physical fitness levels of everyone in Heaven Do Academy this poor? Zhao Wuji asked Flender, the headmaster of Shrek beside him. "I don't know either. Maybe it's because there are dregs everywhere. They might just be some of the poorer students here. Perhaps. Hopefully the other students of Heaven Do Academy are still quite outstanding. Alright. Mubai, stop fighting." Flender stopped Dai Mubai's actions. Seeing that the headmaster had spoken, Dai Mubai had no choice but to stop his movements and said, "Now you know who should be scrambling away, right?" Hearing these words, the leading prince Shui Beng also shouted loudly, "You actually dare to cause trouble at the entrance of Heaven Do Academy? Just you wait, I'm going to have my imperial elder brother come teach you a lesson." Finishing his words, Shui Beng directly led his lackeys and fled straight away, leaving only the Shrek group standing in place, somewhat stunned. "What did he say just now, an imperial elder brother?" Flender asked Zhao Wuji beside him. "It seems correct, it is indeed an imperial elder brother," Zhao Wuji responded. "Then the person we just beat up couldn't be a prince, right?" "It looks like it." Dai Mubai had also recovered his wits by this time, cutting in to say, what's so great about a prince? Who isn't the same?" At this time, hearing Prince Shui Beng say he was going to find his imperial elder brother, Tang San couldn't help but be a bit dumbfounded. Shouldn't he go find his imperial uncle? Why go find his imperial elder brother? Was he going to find Shui Qing to throw away his life? Could it be that things have changed here too? In this lifetime, did Qian Xunji not come to replace the Heaven Do Prince Shui Qing? Then in this lifetime, won't Qian Xunji directly become a god early on? But thinking again that he had Asura god backing him up from behind, Tang San relaxed his mind. "Headmaster, you guys have arrived. Qin Ming, you've come too. How is it? How have things been arranged?" "Headmaster, you can rest assured. I have already arranged everything, and I have also greeted the higher-ups of the Heaven Do Empire, just waiting for you guys to join. But they obviously don't believe you guys have such strong strength, and require you to showcase the strength of each student before joining the academy." Haha, no problem. I still have confidence in the strength among our students. In that case, I will first lead the headmaster and all the junior schoolmates to clean up a bit, and then tomorrow we can go meet the various education committee members in the academy. Hearing these words at this time, Flender did not respond immediately, wearing a hesitant expression as if there was something he wanted to say, yet didn't know how to voice it. Seeing this, Qinming directly asked, "Headmaster, is there something I arranged that is not to everyone's liking?" Flender shook his head and said directly, "Qinming, you have already arranged things very well, and we are all very satisfied, but there is one matter I have to tell you. Just now on the way to the academy, we encountered obstruction from several students in Heaven Do Academy, and inevitably had some conflicts with them." "Headmaster, then are you guys alright? Were you injured in the conflict? Is it serious? Exactly which clueless students actually dared to obstruct you?" "Headmaster, rest assured, later I will report these disobedient students and make them scram out of the academy." Flender shook his head and said, "No, Qinming, no need. You guys can't afford to provoke those students. One of the students is even a prince." Qinming frowned and said, "Shui Beng. It's him again. Headmaster, rest assured, I will definitely handle this matter well. It will absolutely not affect your joining the academy. And I believe the education committee members won't ruin this matter for a prodigal son. Flender nodded and said, in that case, sorry to trouble you, Qin Ming nodded solemnly, patted his chest, and said in a deep voice, Headmaster, you can rest assured. I was once a member of Shrek Academy, and Shrek's glory must never be questioned. I will definitely work hard to uphold the face of our Shrek Academy. Qin Ming, I trust you. Afterwards, Qin Ming led the group from Shrek Academy before him into the restaurant, preparing a lavish dinner banquet for the Shrek group. The meal directly lasted until the moon reached the middle of the sky before ending. During this period, Qin Ming also went out once, specially going to see the various education committee members in the academy to report on the conflict between the Shrek group and Prince Shui Bang. Then, the various education committee members in the academy also successively gave Qin Ming peace of mind, telling him not to worry about this matter, as they would handle it well. After Qin Ming returned, he passed on the good news he received to everyone in Shrek Academy on the spot. The Shrek Academy crowd cheered one after another, and only Tang San sat in his seat with lowered eyes, pondering the upcoming changes in events. At this time, Shui Beng also arrived at the residence of the eldest Prince Shui Luoquan, recounting the humiliation he suffered today at the hands of the Shrek group. Imperial elder brother, you must stand up for me. Those people in Shrek Academy are simply going too far. Clearly they dressed like beggars and ran into my Heaven Do Academy. Your younger brother only tried to persuade them to leave nicely in order to uphold the face of Heaven Do Academy, but in the end not only did they fail to appreciate your younger brother's good intentions, instead they lashed out violently at your younger brother. Your younger brother feels so wronged. Chapter 63 Shrek and others are driven out of the academy. The next day, Qin Ming got up early and went to see everyone in Shrek Academy. After waking them up, Qin Ming said to Flender, Director, I will go notify the members of the education committee first that you are going to pay a visit. After you and the younger schoolmates finish getting ready, you must follow right after. Zhao Ming, you can rest assured. Little freaks, hurry up and wash up. Today we are going to meet the committee members, and today all of you better rein yourselves in. You must not make Shrek Academy lose face. After Flender agreed with Qin Ming, he also urged the Shrek crowd in front of him. Rest assured, Dean, we will never disgrace your Shrek Academy. Hearing this, Ma Hongjun immediately responded. Dai Mubai followed closely and said, Dean, you can just rest assured. How could you not trust us? After all, we are the Shrek Seven Devils. The rest of the people also nodded in response. Seeing how united everyone in Shrek Academy was, Flender couldn't help laughing and said, Very good, this is the proper demeanor our Shrek students should have. At this time, Shui Beng was leading his imperial elder brother, Shui Luoquan, and had also arrived at Heaven Do Academy. Standing at the entrance of Heaven Do Academy, Shui Luoquan couldn't help stopping to look around. Looking at the various objects at the entrance of Heaven Do Academy, Shui Luoquan couldn't help recalling his own path of studying at Heaven Do Academy back then. Heaven Do Academy. I haven't been here in a long time. Imperial elder brother, what's so nice to look at the main gate of Heaven Do Academy? We'd better hurry in and go straight to find those little beasts. The beating my imperial younger brother took from them yesterday really hurt. Shui Luoquan's thoughts were interrupted by Shui Bang, and his heart couldn't help feeling slightly displeased, but it didn't show on his face, and he only gently responded, okay. After all, Shui Bang was considered his imperial younger brother no matter what, and the few bad friends by his side also had a not-so-small faction behind them. Besides, Shui Bang previously had the support of the imperial uncle behind him. Although Dugu Bo was now dead, Shui Beng himself had almost no possibility of touching the imperial throne anymore, but this faction behind Shui Beng was still worth the crown prince lowering his status to recruit. Especially given how outstanding his second and third younger brothers had been these past few years. His second younger brother became a disciple of Ning Fengji, binding the 7 treasure glazed tile school to the Heaven Do Empire. his third younger brother also continuously expanded territories for the empire, conquering quite a bit of territory from other countries. If he didn't recruit some factions anymore, who knew how much longer his position as crown prince could exist? Afterwards, Shui Beng led Shui Luoquan into the interior of Heaven Do Academy. Qin Ming, are these the outstanding students of Shrek you mentioned? Yes, committee members. They are all my younger schoolmates of this year. The committee members carefully observed the Shrek group in front of them, then laughed heartily and said, "Ha ha. This Shrek Academy is indeed a place where talents gather. I didn't expect that it could not only cultivate a Qin Ming, but actually cultivate so many genius students. Principal Flender truly knows how to teach." Flender hurriedly stood up and said, "Flender doesn't dare accept such high praise from the committee members. These little freaks in Shrek Academy were actually not taught by yours truly, but by someone else. Oh, I wonder who it is. To actually possess such a heaven-defying skill. That person is precisely one of my dearest friends, Yu Shaogang, Grandmaster." While speaking, Flender had already pushed Yu Shaogang forward and introduced him to the committee members. Hearing Yu Shaogang's name abruptly, the eyelids of the three committee members twitched involuntarily. However, being seasoned veterans, the three committee members quickly adjusted themselves. But although the expressions of the three committee members were very subtle, what kind of person was Flender? He was a cunning merchant of a generation. A cunning merchant could lack everything else, but he couldn't lack the ability to read facial expressions. Otherwise, how could he precisely squeeze out the highest price people would accept for every item? Flender immediately understood that the three committee members obviously did not believe in Shaogang's ability. After all, in the eyes of the world, Shaogang was just a plagiarizing grandmaster. How could he have such skills? Ahem. Flender coughed a few times, drawing the attention of the committee members over. After being drawn over, the three committee members looked at Flender. Committee members must often read the Spirit daily. And you must have heard that Shaogang's name isn't very good. In fact, all of this is merely slander from Spirit Hall. Spirit Hall simply wants to use this method to stifle Shaogang's talent. Yu Shaogang also understood at this moment. The three committee members didn't trust him, so he also explained, "That's right, all of this is merely a conspiracy by Spirit Hall. Back then, because I learned some secrets of Spirit Hall from the Holy Maiden of Spirit Hall has been suppressing me all these years to prevent the secrets from leaking out." Hearing this, the three committee members also showed a sudden realization and hurriedly said, "So that's how it is. Spirit Hall is truly hateful. To prevent knowledge from being passed on, they actually suppressed Grandmaster like this. Grandmaster, you can rest assured, our Heaven Do Academy will definitely not believe those rumors. In the future, we will certainly clear your name." However, what the three committee members were thinking in their hearts remained unknown. Anyway, face was given to the Shrek group on the surface. After all, they were going to recruit these people shortly, so they couldn't fall out with them. Moreover, looking at Flender's sycophantic appearance, as for the other things Spirit Hall said, they might not know if they were true or false, but the secret of the martial soul fusion technique must be real. Grandmaster, this must be your beloved disciple Tang San. That's right, my teacher is precisely Yu Shaogang. Ha ha, truly, heroes come from youth. Grandmaster really knows how to teach. To actually cultivate such an outstanding spirit master. Yu Shaogang couldn't help accepting the goodwill of several committee members. His face was filled with smiles. I wonder what kind of treatment we Shrek Academy can receive if we enter Heaven Do Academy, committee members. Several committee members also straightened their expressions and said, if Shrek Academy joins the academy, all treatments will be calculated based on the best terms. How about that? I disagree. A voice suddenly sounded in everyone's ears, and it was precisely the tardy Crown Prince and Prince Shui Beng. After the Crown Prince arrived here, he first bowed to the three committee members, and the three committee members also hurriedly returned the bow. Afterward, the Crown Prince got straight to the point and said, "Three committee members, I wonder what qualifications the Shrek group has to directly enter our Heaven Do Academy and directly enjoy the highest treatment." Crown Prince, the Shrek group defeated the Royal Heaven Do team of our Heaven Do Academy. Hearing this news, the Crown Prince couldn't help being stunned. Defeated the Royal Heaven Do team. What were those people under him doing for a living? Why hadn't he heard of this? But very quickly, the Crown Prince adjusted his state. Even if they defeated the Royal Heaven Do team, so what? This time, after all, he came to stand up for his imperial younger brother, so he continued, although the Shrek group defeated the Royal Heaven Do team, they shouldn't beat up the fourth prince. Being so arrogant and defiant, how can they be of use to the Empire in the future? I'm afraid in the future, not only will they not be of use to the Empire, but they will instead become a grave threat to the Empire. Therefore, as the Crown Prince of the Heaven Do Empire, I absolutely do not agree to recruit this kind of person into the Imperial Academy. Crown Prince, we already have a clear understanding of the fourth prince's matter. It was the fourth prince who went looking for trouble first, and the Shrek group was merely defending themselves in a counterattack. HMPH. Self-defense counterattack. My imperial younger brother never thought of going to fight Shrek Academy, he just saw that they were dressed in rags, kindly reminded them a few words to leave, and then got beaten up like this. Such unreasonable people, as the Crown Prince of the Heaven Do Empire, I absolutely will not allow such people to enter Heaven Do Academy. Looking at the scene before him, Tang San frowned slightly, scanned his surroundings, and wondered why Dugu Bo hadn't come. Crown Prince, even if you are the Crown Prince of the Heaven Do Empire, you have no qualifications to meddle in the Academy's affairs. But just as the committee member finished saying these words, another voice suddenly sounded. Since the Crown Prince has no qualifications, then I wonder if I have qualifications. The three committee members turned their heads to look and discovered it was Prince Shui Xing. They hurriedly saluted and said, "Your Highness, Prince." Prince Shui Xing puffed out his chest and accepted the salutes of several people. I wonder if the committee members think that I, the manager of Heaven Do Academy personally appointed by His Majesty, have the qualifications. The three committee members had bitter expressions. Why had Prince Shui Xing come as well? However, the three committee members could only respectfully answer. Prince Shui Xing, as the person personally appointed by His Majesty to be in charge of Academy affairs, naturally has the qualifications to decide the Academy's matters. Since that's the case, then this prince does not allow the students of Shrek Academy to enter Heaven Do Academy. Before even entering the Academy, they dared to beat a prince. After entering, would they even dare to beat His Majesty the Emperor? As the person in charge of Heaven Do Academy personally appointed by His Majesty, how can I allow such a thing to happen and ignore it? After the three committee members exchanged glances, they saw the helplessness in each other's eyes, and then could only look at the crowd of Shrek Academy with a helpless and powerless gaze. After all, both the Crown Prince and Prince Shui Xing had spoken. They had to give face after all. They couldn't offend both of them. Looking at the appearance of the three committee members, Shui Beng couldn't help letting out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, last night, afraid that his elder brother the Crown Prince's individual deterrence would not be enough, he also had someone notify his uncle, who was the manager of Heaven Do Academy, to come over as well. Otherwise, today there really would be no way to discipline these people in Shrek Academy. Hey, did you people from Shrek Academy not hear? My uncle told you to get lost quickly. Why aren't you getting lost yet? Hearing this, the Shrek group couldn't help showing looks of humiliation and anger. It was as if they were ready at any moment to swarm forward and tear the Shui Beng before them into pieces. Fine, we'll get lost. Seeing that the current situation was not right, Yu Shaogang hurriedly agreed. Shaogang, Yu Shaogang didn't speak, he just silently pulled at the hems of the clothing of the angry Flender and the others, walking towards the entrance. Chapter 64, Qian Runshui's Third Godly Trial. Shaogang, why did you pull us back? Heaven Do Academy clearly humiliated us so much. Grandmaster shook his head and said, Flender, the situation just now was unfavorable to us. If we continued to make a fuss there, we wouldn't gain anything. There's no need for us to make a reckless scene there. Headmaster. Hearing the voice, Flender turned his head and saw that Qin Ming had followed them. Zhao Ming, is it you? Why did you come out too? Will this be okay? Headmaster, I'm truly sorry about what happened just now. Flender waved his hand and said, this matter isn't your fault. It's because Shui Bang, the first prince, and that prince went too far in bullying others. Headmaster, I have already resigned from my teaching position at Heaven Do Academy, and I plan to accompany you all for what comes next. Flender couldn't help being somewhat surprised, but still said, Zhao Ming, if you do this, will it have any impact on your future? Hearing this, Qin Ming straightened his expression and said, Headmaster, what kind of talk is that? I, Qin Ming, came out of Shrek Academy, how could I ignore Shrek's life or death? In life, I, Qin Ming, am a person of Shrek. In death, I am a ghost of Shrek. Good. Well done, Zhao Ming. It's better not to stay in this lousy Heaven Do Academy anyway. Hearing this, Zhao Wuji couldn't help cheering for Qin Ming. You talk too much, old Zhao. Hearing this, Flender glared at Zhao Wuji. Afterwards, Flender still said with gratification, good. Zhao Ming, since you trust us, we cannot let you down either. Let's go, little freaks. I'll take you to find a place to settle down in Heaven Do City. Okay. Inside the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Looking at the card in his hand, Qian Xunji rubbed it repeatedly. Should he use this card or not? In the past, Qian Xunji was not worried about the issue of Qian Runshui falling in love with Tang San, because the system had said that all of this was simply due to the sea god. However, as his daughter grew day by day, although Qian Xunji knew all of this was because of the sea god, he still couldn't help worrying. What should he do if Qian Runshui really fell in love with Tang San in the future? In the past, Qian Xunji had heard people say that humans have something called a childhood compensation mechanism. Thinking left and right, Qian Xunji found that Shui's childhood seemed to lack only romance. Therefore, with romance lacking in Shui's childhood, would she crave romance in the future? Leading to a butterfly effect later on that actually caused her to fall in love with Tang San. In the past, Qian Xunji hadn't cared about this, but now he truly needed to guard against it properly. Yet, looking at the special reincarnation card before him, Qian Xunji still couldn't help hesitating somewhat. This special reincarnation card allowed Qian Xunji to adjust a portion of the test according to his own thoughts. He could emphasize a certain aspect, such as romance or familial affection. Qian Xunji could also rely on a portion of the authority he possessed after passing the godly trial to let one person enter another person's reincarnation, becoming an important person within that reincarnation. Forget it, this matter still needs to be discussed with Qian Ning. After all, as for the candidate, the best candidate in his mind was Qian Ning. Over the years, she had long since become a titled Duluo. Her willpower and mental force were also sufficient. Thinking of this, Qian Xunji came to his own courtyard, found Qian Ning, and spilled everything about this matter to Qian Ning. Hearing that this matter was for the good of her daughter, Qian Ning also agreed to become her lover within Qian Runshui's reincarnation. Seeing that Qian Ning agreed, Qian Xunji breathed a sigh of relief. If Qian Ning really didn't agree, he truly wouldn't know who else to look for to carry out this matter. Perhaps this matter would have to be abandoned. After all, if it were someone else or if no one was found, wouldn't that be equivalent to giving himself an extra son-in-law? Afterwards, Qian Xunji brought Qian Ning into the elder hall and immediately saw Shui before them undergoing the godly trial. What are you here to do? Sensing someone arriving, Qian Daoliu opened his eyes and saw Qian Xunji and the others, so he directly asked Qian Xunji before him. Qian Xunji and Qian Ning each executed a bow and greeted him, then said, Ninger and I came to see how Shui is doing. MN. Brother Qian and I want to see Shui. However, father-in-law, could you go outside for a moment? We want to spend some time alone with Shui. Hearing this, Qian Daoliu's eyes couldn't help widening. So they were treating him like an outsider. However, Qian Daoliu ultimately went out, leaving the space to Qian Xunji and Qian Ning and the others. After all, Qian Xunji had grown up and started a family. There were indeed some secrets that were inconvenient for Qian Daoliu to know. Ninger, are you really ready? MN, Brother Qian, I am already ready. For the sake of Shui, I am willing to do this. MN, since that's the case, all right. Hearing these words, Qian Xunji no longer hesitated, took out the card in his hand, entered Qian Runshui's godly trial, and relied on his powerful mental force to modify the content of the third trial left behind by the angel god. Qian Runshui, who was preparing to undergo the third trial, suddenly heard such a voice ringing in her ears. The third trial of the angel godly trial, 100-generation reincarnation, begins. The moment she heard this voice, Qian Runshui fainted. Qian Xunji also immediately used his own divine force on Qian Ning, projecting Qian Ning's consciousness into Qian Runshui's third godly trial as well. Everything is done. Shui, I hope this 100-generation reincarnation romantic experience will ensure you have no regrets regarding romance in the future. Qian Xunji softly murmured as he looked at Qian Runshui before him. Chapter 65, Conversation between Ning Fengji and Tang San. Inside Lanba Academy. At this time, Grandmaster and Luer Long had resolved their past conflicts, and Shrek Academy had also settled down inside Lanba Academy. At this moment, Ning Rongrong gracefully walked up to Tang San and said, "Third brother, my father wants to see you." "Oh, Schoolmaster Ning wants to see me. Rongrong, do you know what it's about?" Hearing this, although Tang San already knew in his heart, on the surface he still pretended to ask with a clueless look. Ning Rongrong thought for a moment and said, "It should be because of your hidden weapons. I told my father about this matter, and he is very interested in those hidden weapons of yours. Third brother, you won't blame me for telling my father about this, right?" Speaking up to this point, Ning Rongrong was obviously somewhat worried about Tang San's blame. After all, over these past few months, she had long since thoroughly integrated into the Shrek Seven Devils. "How could that be, Rongrong? We are a single entity, after all." Tang San comforted Ning Rongrong regarding this. After all, when he established the Tang sect in the future, he would need the wealth of the 7 treasure glazed tile school. How could he possibly blame someone like Ning Rongrong, who was essentially a wealth-bringing child? Hearing this, Ning Rongrong wore a look of deep emotion. "Third brother, rest assured. I will definitely work hard to speak well of you in front of my father." Rongrong, I trust you. Let's go, take me to see your father." Ning Rongrong immediately brought Tang San to a clearing beside the small woods. There were 2 people standing quietly in the clearing, as if waiting for the arrival of others. "Dad, I brought Tang San to see you." Ning Fengji turned his head to look, instantly spotting the ordinarily looking boy next to Ning Rongrong. He frowned, but his expression quickly returned to normal. With a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth, he said, "Presumably, this little brother is the dragon among men, Tang San, that Rongrong spoke of." Schoolmaster Ning, Tang San wouldn't dare accept being called a dragon among men. Tang San hastily declined. At this moment, an old man beside Ning Fengji suddenly chimed in, "Rongrong, you haven't returned to the sect for quite a long time. Grandpa Bone has missed you to death. How come you only called out to Fengji just now? Didn't call Grandpa Bone? How come you didn't even greet your Grandpa Bone when you came back this time? Could it be that you've forgotten your Grandpa Bone? If that's the case, your Grandpa Bone will be truly heartbroken." Finishing his words, the old man put on an expression of deep sorrow. Seeing this, Ning Rongrong playfully stuck out her tongue and said, "Grandpa Bone, how could Rongrong forget you? Rongrong has missed you and Grandpa Sword too." That's more like it." Hearing this, Bone Duluo finally put on a satisfied expression. Tang San greets Senior Bone. Truly a hero comes from a young age. At such an age and with such a spirit, to actually be able to cultivate to this extent. Bone Duluo flatters me too much. Seeing this, Ning Fengji spoke up again, Tang San, regarding the purpose of our visit this time, presumably you already know a part of it through Rongrong. Schoolmaster Ning must want to buy my hidden weapons. That's right, Tang San, I heard from Rongrong that even ordinary people can use your hidden weapons. Yes, Schoolmaster Ning. After receiving confirmation from Tang San, Ning Fengji's mind inevitably fluctuated. Ordinary people could actually use these hidden weapons too. Then this truly was something sufficient to change the world. At the very least, the spirit tools produced by Spirit Hall in the past still required spirit masters to use them. Although they were quite good and could allow support system spirit masters to also possess offensive capability, they did not possess a subversive nature toward the spirit master's world. After all, the world was still centered around spirit masters. But Tang San's hidden weapons possessed a certain subversiveness toward the spirit master's world. It enabled ordinary people to also possess a portion of offensive power no weaker than a spirit master's. After calming his emotions, Ning Fengji asked, I wonder if these hidden weapons of yours, little brother Tang San, can be mass-produced. Are you willing to buy and sell these hidden weapons of yours? My 7-treasure glazed tile school is willing to pay a heavy price to purchase them. Replying to Schoolmaster Ning, hidden weapons can indeed be mass-produced, but I need a large amount of manpower, Tang San said with a troubled look. It's good that they can be mass-produced. I wonder how much a single piece of these hidden weapons of yours is worth, little brother Tang San. One Zug crossbow is 10,000 gold coins. Schoolmaster Ning, what do you think? Ning Fengji shook his head and said, it's a bit too expensive. Those spirit tools with corresponding power only cost a few thousand gold coins. And they can use spirit power to repeatedly condense and use arrows. Whereas the arrows in these hidden weapons of yours will be damaged after being used a few times, they simply can't reach that price. Hearing this, Tang San frowned. In his past life, it was also this price, and Ning Fengji hadn't even frowned back then. How could he intend to haggle with him like this in this lifetime? Blame the detestable spirit hall. If it weren't for them selling spirit tools, Ning Fengji and the others wouldn't be in no rush to buy spirit tools right now and instead come to haggle with him. Then how much does Schoolmaster Ning think a Zug crossbow is worth? Thinking for a moment, Tang San still decided to let Ning Fengji put forward a price first. Ning Fengji thought for a moment and finally extended 5 fingers. 5,000. Tang San asked with puzzlement. Ning Fengji shook his head and said, it's 500. Tang San's mouth widened in shock. This cut down the price way too much. Of course Tang San couldn't possibly agree. If it were like this, how was he going to acquire the Tang sect's first pot of gold? Afterwards, amidst the intense discussion between Tang San and Ning Fengji, Tang San finally settled on a price acceptable to both parties with Ning Fengji. 1,000 gold coins. Chapter 66. Tang San plots the ice and fire yin-yang well. Returning to Lanba Academy, after returning to the current Shrek Academy. Tang San waited left and right, but Dugu Bo still did not arrive. A trace of unease flashed through Tang San's heart, wondering if something had happened to Dugu Bo. Thinking of this, Tang San came to Ning Rongrong's room, gently knocked on the door, and entered. Seeing that it was Tang San's arrival, Ning Rongrong also hurriedly got up to welcome him. After all, among the Shrek 7 devils, Ning Rongrong and Ning Fengji valued Tang San the most, and in the beginning, Tang San was also considered by Ning Fengji to be the best future partner for Ning Rongrong. It was just a pity that later, after Ning Fengji carefully looked into Tang San, he found out that Tang San already had someone he liked. Furthermore, judging by Tang San's appearance, he was not very good looking either, and this wasn't something that could be easily changed. Therefore, he dropped the idea. However, this still did not hinder Tang San's important status in the hearts of Ning Rongrong and Ning Fengji. Third brother, why are you here? Rongrong, I want you to help me ask about someone. Third brother, just say it. I'll have my father help you check. Who is it? Dugu Bo. Hearing that it was Dugu Bo, Ning Rongrong couldn't help being slightly stunned, then confirmed with Tang San again, is it the poison Duluo? Tang San nodded and said, that's right, it is indeed the poison Duluo Dugu Bo. I want to know his recent news these past few days and his upcoming travel route. Hearing these words, Ning Rongrong's expression gradually became peculiar, and she couldn't help interrupting Tang San's following words to ask. Third brother, don't you know that the poison Duluo Dugu Bo has been dead for a while? Hearing this, Tang San's expression stiffened, and then he said in disbelief, dead? How could he be dead? When did he die? How did he die? It is said that a few months ago, because the poison Duluo ate a wildflower, his own toxins surged, and he couldn't resist the backlash of his own toxins, ultimately dying from the backlash of his own toxins. Tang San was stunned upon hearing this, realizing he ate a wildflower and his toxins surged. Tang San's expression was peculiar. Could Du Gubo have eaten that blood-colored swan kiss? Was he that brave, daring to randomly eat anything? But he clearly remembered that in his past life, Du Gubo was obviously very cautious. Relying on the ice and fire yin-yang well, he easily resisted until this stage. How could Du Gubo just kick the bucket directly at this stage in this lifetime? However, Tang San quickly snapped back to his senses. Du Gubo was dead, then didn't this mean that the current ice and fire yin-yang well was still a masterless land? After all, Du Guyan's current strength still couldn't control that treasured land. Thinking of this, God King Tang of the past life couldn't help but feel excited at his heart. After all, his past self's actions regarding Du Gubo because of the ice and fire yin-yang well really didn't quite fit the identity of God King Tang. Since Du Gubo was dead in this life, then this heaven and earth treasure and masterless land should rightly belong to those with virtue. He, Tang San, would not yield. Speaking of virtue, who could compare to him, Tang San? He, Tang San, conscientiously planned the 10,000-year grand strategy for Duluo continent. Speaking of contributions to Duluo continent, who could compare to him, Tang San? Furthermore, Du Guyan, rather than letting you virtueless people idly guard a treasured land and waste the continent's resources, it would be better to let this God King take it to contribute to the future of the continent. Since you cannot handle the ice and fire yin-yang well, let this God King help you handle it. Thinking of the exciting part, Tang San was already somewhat impatient to immediately head to the ice and fire yin-yang well. Ahem. No, he had to hold back. At the very least, the ice and fire yin-yang well was not yet in his hands, so he should still be a bit steady. However, looking at Tang San's mouth corners that could no longer be suppressed from turning upwards at this moment, one could tell just how great Tang San's mood was right now. Right, I need to quickly go find Baba and have him take me to that place. Thinking of Tang Hao, Tang San suddenly cooled down as if a basin of cold water had been abruptly poured over him. That's right. How should he bring this matter up with Baba? After thinking for a while, Tang San found that this didn't seem too difficult. Baba's identity could be said to have been guessed by himself. After all, isn't that thing called the Spirit Hall newspaper something that could be used as a very good shield? As for the ice and fire yin-yang well, this wasn't too hard to explain either. He could say that he had accidentally consulted some ancient books before, thought they were fake at the time and just stories, but later heard about a similar treasured land. It would just happen to let his father take him to look for it. Thinking of this, Tang San decided to go find his teacher first and have him help notify his father. Tang San walked to Yu Shaoging's door, knocked gently on the door, and then entered the house. Teacher. At this moment, Yu Shaoging's expression was obviously a bit flustered and somewhat absent-minded. Hearing Tang San's words, Yu Shaoging didn't react for a moment, and after a long while, he seemed to have regained a part of his wits to ask Tang San. Little San, why are you here? Tang San didn't care about Yu Shaoging's absent-mindedness at this moment and said directly. Teacher, I came here wanting to see my father. Hearing this, Yu Shaoging couldn't help being slightly stunned, but he quickly reacted and said. Your father? Then you shouldn't come to see me. Don't you know where your father is? Yourself. Tang San straightened his expression and said to Yu Shaoging before him solemnly once again. Teacher, I know you know my father is Clear Sky Duluo. I also want to see my father, Clear Sky Duluo. I have important matters. Yu Shaoging was silent for a moment, then said in a calm tone, Little San, you are a smart child. It seems some things still couldn't be kept from you. Teacher, Little San, why do you suddenly want to see your Grace Hoshin? Has something happened? Yu Shaoging asked again. Hearing this, Tang San was silent for a moment, and then still stated his purpose. After listening to Tang San's description, Yu Shaoging's emotions were somewhat agitated. Little San, are you saying that inside the ice and fire yin-yang well there are things that can help improve spirits? Tang San knew his teacher's obsession with his own spirit, so he nodded and naturally said, Yes, teacher. If I can obtain the ice and fire yin-yang well, I am confident I can make your Luo San Pao completely evolve into a holy dragon of light. Hearing Tang San say this, Yu Shaogang was emotionally agitated, his eye sockets turning red, wishing he could immediately take Flender and the others to set off for the Sunset Forest to search for the ice and fire yin-yang well. But very quickly, Yu Shaogang calmed down. Little San, the reason you asked me to notify your Grace Hoshan is because there are dangers at the ice and fire yin-yang well in the Sunset Forest that we, Shrek, cannot resolve ourselves. Yes, teacher. I heard that the previous owner of the ice and fire yin-yang well was Dugu Bo, and I am worried that before his death, he left some virulent poison at the ice and fire yin-yang well. After all, the poison Duluo's poison still has a fatal effect on powerhouses below Tidal Duluo, and for powerhouses that are above Tidal Duluo, if he meticulously arranged it, it would also have a considerable obstructing effect. With Father's protection, we will be safer. Chapter 67 Bibi Dong. After listening, Yu Shaogang calmed down a bit, thought for a moment more, and then said, Little San, to be honest, I don't know where your father is either. However, your father did give me a contact method. Let me try to contact your father. It might take a few days before I can notify you of Clear Sky Duluo's decision again. Teacher, sorry to trouble you. Hearing this, Tang San bowed to Yu Shaogang and thanked him. Little San, you should go back first. After your father contacts me, I will come find you. Sorry to trouble teacher. After Tang San left, a cold and gloomy voice suddenly sounded inside the room. Your disciple is quite good. As the voice fell, a mature, royal sister-type woman with a beautiful appearance slowly materialized in the room. The aura unconsciously emitted by her surroundings gave people nearby a feeling of gloom and darkness, unconsciously bringing a special discomfort and inner darkness to those around her. The newcomer was none other than Yu Shaogang's first love, Bibi Dong. Seeing Bibi Dong materialize again, Yu Shaogang couldn't help but grow nervous in his heart. Won't you be discovered by Clear Sky Duluo coming out like this? Hearing this, Bibi Dong didn't mind. She sat on the bed behind Grandmaster, stretched her enviable, slender waist, relaxed her body, and then lay down lazily on Grandmaster's bed, saying, Rest assured. No one will discover me. With the strength of Clear Sky Duluo Tang Hao, unless I manifest right in front of him, as long as I don't want him to find me, he won't be able to find me. Furthermore, under my perception right now, he is not around your Shrek Academy at all. Hearing Bibi Dong say that Tang Hao couldn't find her, Yu Shaogang couldn't help raising his eyebrows, somewhat surprised at what Bibi Dong's current strength actually was. What on earth is your current strength? How can you ensure that Clear Sky Duluo won't discover us? My strength. It should already be close to the human limit. Hearing this, Yu Shaogang slowly widened his eyes and said in shock, You mean you have already become a limit Duluo? That's not it. It should be said we are still one step away. Right now I am still a level 98 Super Duluo. It's just that I can break through at any time. The reason I am not breaking through is that I want to refine my spirit power a bit first. Hearing this, Yu Shaogang still couldn't help but directly gasp in a breath of cold air. Then, not knowing what he thought of again, he looked at Bibi Dong with an envious gaze, and said in an envious tone, Can you evil soul masters really cultivate this fast? Do you know what other methods evil soul masters have besides being born with an evil spirit? It makes me even want to use the evil soul master cultivation method. Thinking of this, Yu Shaogang couldn't help harboring some complaints against Spirit Hall deep down. You say, what did you Spirit Hall burn those evil soul master cultivation methods for? You simply don't know how difficult the cultivation path of ordinary spirit masters is. Destroying this evil soul master cultivation method is simply cutting off the cultivation path of ordinary spirit masters like us. Your Spirit Hall is truly selfish and self-interested. Heinous. Hearing that Yu Shaogang also wanted to use the evil soul master cultivation method, Bibi Dong couldn't help but be stunned inside. Even a slight roaring seemed to sound inside her ears, and some noisy sounds seemed to ring around her, blocking out the entry of surrounding sounds for Bibi Dong. Bibi Dong shook her head, then said to Yu Shaogang with a serious expression, Shaogang, you had better not try to cultivate as an evil soul master. The evil soul master cultivation method is really somewhat not good. I don't want you to become an evil soul master. Even for me, I only use those damned people in Spirit Hall and Slaughter City to cultivate. As for the rest, I will not actively harm them. After hearing this, although Yu Shaogang still felt slightly disdainful in his heart, a trace of agreement still mustered up on his face. Donger, rest assured, I will never cultivate to become an evil soul master. After all, my spirit problem is about to be resolved, and there is no need to use an evil soul master's method to solve my own problems. That way, aside from ruining my own reputation, it won't play any role at all. Moreover, even if I wanted to cultivate as an evil soul master, I don't know the conversion method of an evil soul master. After all, Spirit Hall has long destroyed these methods. Current evil soul masters all belong to those born with an evil spirit. After Yu Shaogang finished speaking, Bibi Dong also nodded approvingly. Although Spirit Hall is rather overbearing and selfish, I have to admit that Spirit Hall did indeed do such a good thing once. Facing this, although Yu Shaogang had a few complaints in his heart, he could only smile and respond, indeed. Yu Shaogang truly still needed a part of Bibi Dong's help right now, so he really couldn't fall out with Bibi Dong. After all, things like the cultivation method of twin spirits and some precautions for Spirit Master late-stage cultivation all needed Bibi Dong's help and provision. Otherwise, based solely on the fact that Bibi Dong cultivated into an evil soul master, Yu Shaogang would have long found an opportunity to expose it, prove that he now had no relationship with her as an evil soul master, and then find Spirit Hall to drive her out of Heaven Do City. After all, having deep exchanges with an evil soul master would only ruin this Grandmaster's reputation. This Grandmaster's dream is to be renowned far and wide, not notorious far and wide. Shaogang, is what your disciple said about the thing that can help your spirit evolve true or not? Bibi Dong suddenly said. Yu Shaogang was rarely silent about this for a moment before saying, Little San is an honest child. I am still willing to believe what he says. I feel that since he can say such words, he already has a 70% certainty that it is true. Moreover, no matter how bad this spirit of mine is, could it be worse than it is now? For this kind of matter, I am still willing to take a gamble. After listening, Bibi Dong also smiled, nodded, and said, Indeed, it seems I must congratulate you. After so many years, your spirit problem is finally going to be resolved. Indeed. Half an hour later, Yu Shaogang came to a special location in Shrek Academy and slowly made a mark here. Is it right here? Your Grace Ho Shen recently told me that if I want to see him, I just need to make a mark here, and he will come find me after seeing the mark later. Instead of waiting for him, I think you might as well let me take your disciple and let's go look for that place together. No way. If we do that, how should your identity be explained? Donger, one more person knowing means one more fraction of risk. Rather than letting you take the risk of your identity being exposed and being hunted down by Spirit Hall, I would rather not have my spirit evolve at all. Yu Shaogang said with a resolute expression. After all, if your identity were directly exposed by my side, what would my disciple Tang San think? Wouldn't my sage-like status in his heart collapse, and wouldn't it be settled in the future that this Grandmaster colluded with evil soul masters? By that time, even if this Grandmaster wanted to wash it clean, it wouldn't wash clean. Although Tang Hao has an evil soul master sect behind him, it can still be explained by saying that Tang Hao is just like those ordinary disciples of Clear Sky sect and has never used the evil soul master cultivation method. He is not considered an evil soul master. But adding you to the mix would really make it impossible to explain this Grandmaster's innocence clearly. Hearing this, Bibi Dong didn't think much and directly believed Yu Shaogang's words. Her face was also warmed directly by these words, and she said softly and tenderly, Shaogang. You are truly good. Donger. You are also quite good. Yu Shaogang directly replied. After calling out to each other, the two exchanged glances, and only after a long time did they avert their gazes from each other. At this moment, Tang Hao was sitting in a restaurant in Heaven Do City, drinking himself thoroughly drunk. Ah Yin, where are you? Where on earth are you? Damn it. Don't let me know who took my Ah Yin, otherwise I will definitely make them pay the price. Damned spirit hall, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Yin wouldn't be lost now. If it weren't for you hunting me down, Yin wouldn't have made a sacrifice. If Yin hadn't made a sacrifice, our family would live happily together. After our family lived happily together, I wouldn't have smashed Spirit Hall. If I didn't smash Spirit Hall, those people of Clear Sky Sect wouldn't have died because of me and suffered because of me. Right, so all of this is Spirit Hall's fault. It's all your fault for wanting to hunt down me and Yin. It's all your fault. Just wait. After Little San grows up, I will definitely bring Little San to destroy you all. By that time, after rescuing the remaining people of Clear Sky Sect, I will lead the remaining Clear Sky Sect people to smash your spirit branch halls. Whichever one I want to smash, I will smash. I'm going to smash them one by one. I'll make Spirit Hall also taste the pain of having your foundation destroyed. Little San, you must grow up early. Every day later that you grow up, the people of Clear Sky Sect will have to suffer an extra day of torment because of this. Tang Hao lay on the table drunkenly at this moment, murmuring softly and slowly. The surrounding drinking buddies saw Tang Hao acting in that decadent, drunken manner by himself, and instead of comforting him, they directly said, "Hey, Haozi. What are you mumbling about? Over there. Why don't you come over and continue drinking?" Tang Hao replied with sleepy eyes, "I know, coming. Coming. Stop making a noise, all of you. I'm coming right now." In a daze, Tang Hao walked with drunken steps in front of this group of drunkards before him. Then he slowly lifted the wine barrel closest to him, put it directly to his mouth, and drank in gulps. Finally, as if it wasn't satisfying enough, after finishing it in one go, he picked up another barrel of wine. Good. Everyone applauded in unison, cheering for him. At this time, the afterglow of the setting sun also slowly shone onto this group of drunkards before them, and slowly shone onto Tang Hao's face as he was drinking. Meanwhile, Qian Xunji inside Spirit City stood on a rooftop, slowly raising his head to look at the beautiful setting sun inside Spirit City. He couldn't help but sigh with emotion. The sunset glow of the Duluo continent is truly beautiful. But immediately afterwards, Qian Xunji didn't know what he thought of, and his face inevitably carried a trace of sorrow once more, softly saying, "I wonder how Qian Ning and the others are doing now. Having gone in for so long. Are they doing well at this time?" Chapter 68 Tang Hao gets beaten. A few days later, a person in black quietly sneaked into Yu Xiaoging's office and called Yu Xiaoging out of the room. Arriving at a small woods, the person in black removed the cloak on his head, revealing the disheveled, bearded face of a middle-aged uncle. The newcomer was none other than Tang San's father, Tang Hao. "Grandmaster, what is the purpose of you looking for me?" Seeing the man in front of him, Yu Xiaoging first bowed slightly and respectfully, and then said to the man in front of him, "Your Grace Houshan, I have come this time precisely for Little San's matter." It is like this, Little San said he discovered. That is how it is. Therefore, Little San would like to invite your Grace Houshan to lead him to Sunset Forest to search for this treasured land called the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. After listening to Yu Xiaoging's account, Tang Hao fell silent for a moment. After closing his eyes and pondering for a while, fierce light suddenly flashed in his eyes, and his aura burst forth, directly pressing his coercion onto Yu Xiaoging before him. Tang Hao said gloomily to Yu Xiaoging in front of him, "Are you certain that all these words you said were spoken by Little San? Rather than you deliberately making them up to deceive me?" Suddenly enduring the coercion brought by the clear sky Duluo, Yu Xiaoging's body couldn't help but sink heavily, directly causing Yu Xiaoging to kneel onto the ground. Yu Xiaoging desperately held on with the very last breath in his entire body, trying his best not to let his face have further intimate contact with the ground, while continuously uttering pleas for mercy from his mouth. "Your Grace Houshan, spare my life." These words really were not spoken by me, they were truly told to me by Little San. Seeing this wretched scene of Yu Xiaoging before her, a pair of beautiful eyes in the darkness burned with intense killing intent toward Tang Hao. However, in the end, for reasons unknown, that gaze filled with killing intent ultimately held back, taking no further action. Tang Hao was completely oblivious to all of this. Hearing Yu Shaoging's pleas for mercy, whether because he thought of the reason that the person before him was still Tang San's teacher and could not be crushed to death casually, Tang Hao couldn't help but slightly restrain his own aura and the coercion on Yu Shaoging. Feeling the reduction of the surrounding coercion, perhaps due to his whole body suddenly relaxing, Yu Shaoging's face ultimately had an intimate contact with the ground. How could little San know these things? I don't remember you guys ever going to Sunset Forest. Even I didn't know that Dugu Bo once had such a herb garden. How could little San be so certain that there is such a herb garden in Sunset Forest? And the previous owner was Dugu Bo. Little San, he. Speaking to the end, Tang Hao suddenly remembered those special self-created spirit abilities that Tang San had cultivated in the past, couldn't help being stunned, and fell silent for a while. Clear Sky Du Luo, I really don't know about these things. I also don't know how little San figured this matter out in the first place. Yu Shaoging begged for mercy at this moment. After being silent for another moment, Tang Hao slowly released the coercion surrounding him and said, I know. This matter must not be spoken of again, and you are not allowed to tell little San either. Do you understand? Yu Shaoging got up, recovered for a moment, and let out a slight breath. He originally wanted to ask why he wasn't allowed to ask again, but when he saw Tang Hao's fierce and terrifying face, he ultimately decided to follow his heart. Your Grace Houshan, I understand. However, does this matter mean I need to tell little San that you cannot go look for that ice and fire yin-yang well anymore? Yu Shaoging cautiously probed Tang Hao's attitude before him, fearing that he might carelessly anger this incomprehensible madman in front of him once more. Tang Hao frowned and spoke again. Who said I am not going? I am going. You go notify little San right now, just be ready tomorrow. When I arrive, I will take him there. All right, since that is the case, Your Grace Houshan, I will take my leave to notify little San first. At this moment, Tang Hao wore an expression full of annoyance, waved his hand, and said impatiently, Go. I will come to your academy tomorrow to take little San away. Seeing this, Yu Shaoging couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and quietly retreated. After Yu Shaoging retreated, Tang Hao immediately got up and flew into a quiet woods nearby. The surroundings here were dead silent, and it seemed as though even the sound of a single bug could not be heard. Arriving here, Tang Hao first slowly fell silent for a moment, then summoned his own spirit, employed the martial soul true body, and directly and heavily smashed it down toward this place. A quarter of an hour later, following Tang Hao's destruction of the surroundings, a radius of several hundred meters in the center of this place had been completely reduced to a flat expanse. Looking at the ruined scene before him, Tang Hao couldn't help but slowly sit down, striking a pensive pose, wondering what kind of century-old difficult problem he was pondering over. As the dignified Clear Sky Du Luo, what on earth could have happened to make you fly into such a rage that you flattened several hundred meters of surrounding forest into a flat expanse? A cold and dark voice rang out abruptly at this moment, suddenly echoing in Tang Hao's ears. Who? Hearing this voice, Tang Hao's entire body couldn't help but tense up as he observed the surrounding environment, searching for places where someone could hide nearby. But after observing for a full circle, Tang Hao still failed to discover where the newcomer was hiding. Stop looking, right behind you. Hearing this, Tang Hao abruptly turned around and looked behind him. Only to see that a beautiful-looking woman had suddenly appeared right at Tang Hao's back. Who are you? What are you doing here? Tang Hao vigilantly gazed at the beautiful woman in front of him, the clear sky hammer in his hand primed and ready, prepared at any moment to smash down with a hammer and eliminate the threat before him. Yet, he seemed worried that the newcomer's strength was beyond what he could handle. Therefore, he delayed making a move. Who I am is not important. It's mainly that passing by, I simply couldn't stand how the dignified Clear Sky Du Luo, a titled Du Luo, would actually run off to bully an ordinary level 29 spirit grandmaster. It truly throws shame upon the faces of his titled Du Luo, so I specifically wanted to clear the name for his titled Du Luo and seek justice for that spirit grandmaster. Just right, I can also see how strong the legendary Clear Sky Du Luo who defeated the Supreme Pontiff can be. Hearing this, for some unknown reason, Tang Hao couldn't help but think of himself and Zhao Wuji. Tang Hao was somewhat puzzled. What relation did the person before him have with Yu Shaogang? Were they a member of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan? Tang Hao thought about it, but ultimately decided not to think about it anymore. He directly said to the person in front of him, "It seems your excellency has got me pegged, Otherwise, you wouldn't have followed me up here. I just don't know if your own strength lives up to your current arrogance." The woman before him smiled and said to Tang Hao, "That won't trouble your Grace Hoshan to worry about. Next, Clear Sky Du Luo, please enlighten me." Immediately afterwards, the woman before him directly unfolded her own spirit. As the spirit unfolded, Tang Hao also saw clearly what the newcomer's spirit was. It was a spider. Seeing that the newcomer's spirit was a spider, Tang Hao couldn't help frowning slightly. Could it be that the newcomer really had no relation to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan? Were they truly just unable to stand his bullying of the weak? Are there really such meddlesome people nowadays? Seeing that the newcomer's attack was beginning, Tang Hao didn't say another word and directly activated his own spirit, getting ready to welcome the newcomer's assault. A quarter of an hour later, Tang Hao, who had been beaten into a pig's head, obediently lay on the ground, full of doubt about life, quietly waiting for the final judgment from the newcomer. Next time, don't be so arrogant anymore, only knowing how to bully the weak and throwing away the dignity of his titled Duluo. After finishing, Bibi Dong directly left. Chapter 69, Tang San and Father Meet. After a while, Tang Hao slowly crawled up from the ground, carefully felt his current injuries, and couldn't help exclaiming, "It really hurts. I didn't expect that trash spirit master Yu Shaogang would actually have such a figure behind him." Although the person didn't explain in detail why he beat Tang Hao, how could Tang Hao not know that the person beat him because of Yu Shaogang? Otherwise, how could there be such a busybody in the spirit master's world? Because an unrelated person suffered a grievance, yet ran over to beat up other spirit masters, such a busybody simply didn't exist in the spirit master's world. Even if they existed, they would have died long ago. The rule of the spirit master's world was the law of the jungle, where the strong bully the weak. Aside from people related to themselves, who would care about the feelings of the weak? Who would meddle in the affairs of the weak? Even Spirit Hall was one of the maintainers of this order, except that Spirit Hall had set a boundary for these strong ones, forbidding them from wantonly slaughtering those weak ones. But Spirit Hall would not poke its nose into other people's business to manage a weak person being bullied, nor could it manage it all. Spirit Hall was already somewhat overwhelmed maintaining the overall order of the continent, let alone other matters. Therefore, even if the strong person just now did not have a dragon spirit, nor was he from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan, Tang Hao was certain that he must have some relationship with that bullshit Grandmaster. After all, no titled Duluo would choose to offend himself, the continent's once youngest titled Duluo genius, for an unrelated spirit Grandmaster. This was also the last remaining pride in Tang Hao's heart, having once been the continent's #1 genius. Forget it, let's rest for a while first. Tomorrow I still have to take Little San to find that bullshit Ice and Fire Yin Yang well. Finding a relatively intact open space, Tang Hao directly sat cross-legged and slowly recuperated from his injuries. However, the next day, when the exhausted Tang Hao appeared before Grandmaster, Yu Shaogang couldn't help being startled. The exhausted, sloppy big man in front of him turned out to be yesterday's Clear Sky Duluo. Although the previous Clear Sky Duluo was not very clean and tidy, he wasn't this bad. And how could his footsteps be somewhat unsteady? "Your Grace Hoshan, what on earth did you experience last night?" Looking at Tang Hao's nearly exhausted appearance in front of him, Yu Shaogang couldn't help advising, "Ahem. Your Grace Hoshan, I know that you are currently in the prime of a titled Duluo and full of energy, but you still need to exercise moderation. Although I also know that your body as a titled Duluo is very strong, there's no need for you to spend the whole night." Speaking to this point, Yu Shaogang found that he couldn't go on, because he found that Tang Hao was staring at him with wide eyes, his eyes filled with terrifying evil qi. Yu Shaogang was afraid that if he said any more, Clear Sky Duluo would rush over and slap him directly. Getting slapped was a small matter, but losing face in front of his apprentice was a big matter. He definitely didn't want to walk around with a face full of slap prints in front of Tang San next, having his dignity as a master collapse in Tang San's heart. After thinking about it, Yu Shaogang finally stopped, only gently advising one last sentence. Your Grace Hoshan, little San still needs you to set a good example. Hearing this, Tang Hao looked extremely impatient, waved his hand, and said casually, got it. Looking at Yu Shaogang's face right now, Tang Hao truly wished he could slap him across the face. Moderation your ass. Moderation. My body is in great shape, would such a trivial matter make me exhausted? Even for 3 days and 3 nights, I wouldn't turn into this ghost-like appearance. I fucking went through a titled Duluo battle, not a bed battle. Moreover, in this life, I only love Yin alone. I would never like those so-called vulgar women. At this moment, Tang San also hurried over. Seeing Tang Hao and Yu Shaogang before him, he couldn't help being overjoyed and shouted, Dad, teacher, you're here. Hearing this, Tang Hao turned his head and looked at Tang San in front of him. His expression was complex. There was doubt. There was killing intent. There was remorse. There was guilt. All the flavors of life seemed to find their answers on this face. However, Tang Hao quickly adjusted his expression, transforming back into a smiling, affectionate, and loving appearance as he looked at Tang San before him. This transition in the middle was extremely fast, so fast that even Tang San's purple demon eye hadn't reacted yet before Tang Hao's expression change was already complete. Ha, little San, long time no see. Looking at this mighty father in his impression, Tang San couldn't help being overjoyed and shouted loudly, Father, you're here. MN. Little San, Grandmaster has already told me everything. By now, you must already know some things, right? MN, Father, I already know all about those things. Father, please don't be sad. I believe all of this is Spirit Hall's fault. When I grow up in the future, I will definitely seek justice from Spirit Hall for our family and for the Clear Sky sect. Hearing this, Tang Hao showed a deeply moved expression and even comforted Tang San in front of him, telling him not to carry too much pressure. Little San, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Spirit Hall is too strong. Don't be rash. All of this is because I, Tang Hao, am incompetent. If it weren't for my incompetence, Yin and everyone in the Clear Sky sect wouldn't have suffered such humiliation. Nor would this matter have remained without an explanation all this time. Father. Hearing his father's comforting words, Tang San became even more moved, and his determination to deal with Spirit Hall in the future to seek justice for his parents grew even firmer. Alright, little San, let's not talk about that for now. Destroying Spirit Hall, all of this still takes time. I believe you will definitely be able to destroy Spirit Hall in the future. But for now, let's go to the Sunset Forest first to find that ice and fire yin-yang well you mentioned. I remember you said it seemed to be able to help you rapidly improve your strength. MN, Father, the treasures of the ice and fire yin-yang well can definitely make a huge leap in my strength. And it's even possible to advance to a spirit ancestor and achieve a 10,000-year fourth spirit ring. Tang San restrained his moved feelings. Thinking about the ice and fire yin-yang well, he couldn't help feeling a bit excited. The ice and fire yin-yang well, was it finally coming? 10,000-year fourth spirit ring. Before Tang Hao could say anything, Grandmaster by his side had already advised, Little San, according to my research, the limit for a fourth spirit ring is only 5,000 years. A 10,000-year fourth spirit ring, how is that possible? You mustn't be blinded by a high-level spirit ring for a moment and choose to give up your own future. For a high-level spirit ring, you can completely wait until your second spirit to attach it, there's no need to take risks. Tang Hao also nodded in agreement. Little San, perhaps you don't know that after reaching 10,000 years, spirit beasts form a huge watershed. When absorbing a spirit ring above 10,000 years, there will be soul shock. You must withstand the soul shock before you can absorb the spirit ring. Therefore, I also think you don't need to take risks. Father, teacher, rest assured. Since I said so, I already have absolute certainty. Right at the ice and fire yin-yang well, there are immortal herbs that can enhance mental force and help me get through the Soul shock, plus the physical fitness I can improve through the ice and fire yin-yang well. Therefore, absorbing a 10,000-year spirit ring is completely possible. Yu Shaogang wanted to persuade him further, but Tang Hao nodded and asked, Little San, are you really certain? MN. Tang San responded firmly, Good. Then let's go for a 10,000-year fourth spirit ring. Yu Shaogang also widened his eyes and said, Your Grace Haoshan, no. This way Little San will definitely explode and die. Tang Hao glanced slightly at Yu Shaogang and said indifferently, I believe Little San. After all, who knows how many more surprises this fellow in front of him could have. Since he said a 10,000-year fourth spirit ring, then it should be a 10,000-year fourth spirit ring. Father. Hearing his father's words, Tang San couldn't help but be filled with emotion. His father actually trusted him to this extent. Chapter 70, Star Luo Empire. Cough, 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 cough. Someone come here. Dai Tianfang lay weakly on the bed at this moment, shouting toward the doorway with all his strength. Finally, his voice drew a response from the guard at the door. Your Majesty, what are your orders? Summon His Highness the First Prince. Yes, Your Majesty. Inside the First Prince's manor of the Star Luo Empire. Father is calling for me. Yes, Your Highness First Prince. I understand. You may leave first. I will head over after adjusting my attire. Yes. Watching the messenger from the palace withdraw, Dai Wuxi could not help but ask the advisors behind him, Why do you think father is summoning me this time? The advisors looked at each other in silence until finally, a thin advisor slowly stepped forward and spoke to Dai Wuxi. The emperor has been gravely ill for a long time. In my humble opinion, summoning Your Highness First Prince this time is likely to settle the throne and arrange his final affairs. Dai Wuxi frowned and countered, Impossible. According to the tradition of imperial throne legacy in the Star Luo Empire, shouldn't the crown prince position only be finalized after I win the throne struggle? How could the position of crown prince be set so far ahead of time? The advisor hesitated visibly for a moment before speaking. According to royal tradition in the past, that is indeed true. The crown prince position should only be settled after the princes compete and win. But the current state of affairs obviously cannot follow past legacy, because the Star Luo Emperor is critically ill and could pass away at any moment. If the Star Luo Emperor truly passes away, the Star Luo Empire will inevitably fall into major chaos. For the stability of the empire, the crown prince must be named early to establish the successor. Moreover, although Your Highness First Prince has not won yet, there is indeed no one left who can contend with you. The second prince has been gradually suppressed, and His Highness Third Prince Dai Mubai, who went to another nation, has too big an age gap and could never defeat Your Highness. Therefore, although Your Highness has not finished the struggle, no one can rival you anymore. The crown prince position is already a set deal beyond doubt. Coupled with the emperor's grave illness, establishing the crown prince early is also a set deal. Hearing this, Dai Wuxi was overjoyed and said, Your words are truly eye-opening. It seems this trip to the palace is entirely my, Dai Wuxi's, opportunity. If it turns out as you say, Dai Wuxi promises that upon my return, I will treat you as someone worthy of becoming Star Luo's prime minister. The thin man was delighted to hear this and said, Then I shall congratulate Your Highness First Prince in advance for being named Crown Prince. Ha ha, wonderful. What is your name, sir? When I return from the Imperial Palace, I will visit you in person. My humble self is Xu Yan. My spirit is the Star Crown, and I am an inner sect disciple of the Star Crown sect. Dai Wuxi was astonished upon hearing Xu Yan's words. He looked at Xu Yan and observed him closely for a long while before exclaiming, Indeed, one cannot judge a book by its cover. Sir, you are actually an inner sect disciple of the Star Crown sect. I do not deserve such praise from the first prince. I only have a slightly better background to become an inner sect disciple of the Star Crown sect. Compared to my fellow disciples, my talent is hardly worth mentioning. Even now, I am merely a spirit king. Dai Wuxi comforted Xu Yan, saying, How can your talent be measured solely by that of an ordinary spirit master? In my Star Luo Empire, we do not lack a spirit saint or even a spirit du Luo. what we lack is a strategist-type figure and a titled Duluo. In my view, your usefulness is hardly inferior to that of a titled Duluo. Rest assured, once I return from the imperial palace, I will surely confer upon you a title and make you prime minister." Hearing the first prince compare him to a titled Duluo, Xu Yan was deeply moved and said in a deep voice, "Then I shall quietly await the good news from the first prince." "Sir, Wisi takes his leave." After saying this, Dai Wisi turned and left, heading toward the imperial palace. Once Dai Wisi departed, his advisors rose one after another to express their congratulations and envy to Xu Yan, to which Xu Yan responded to each. After dealing with his colleagues, Xu Yan returned to his own mansion next to the first prince's manor. As the gates slowly closed, he finally let out a long breath of relief. Arriving inside the residence, a voice suddenly reached Xu Yan's ears. "How are things regarding the first prince?" A beautiful young woman suddenly appeared before Xu Yan. She was Xu Juju, who was seen as Xu Yan's wife in the eyes of outsiders. Upon seeing his wife before him, Xu Yan hurriedly knelt on one knee and said, "Subordinate Xu Yan pays respects to the sixth elder. Rise. How is the plan progressing?" The plan was very successful. The first prince has gone to see the Star Luo Emperor for the last time. It is estimated that news of the first prince committing patricide will spread very soon. Very good. There are still too many factions in the Star Luo Empire loyal to the Star Luo royal family. If we seize power by force, it will inevitably lead to widespread internal rebellions within the empire. Thus, we must first use internal strife among the royal family to wear down their forces and suppress them. Otherwise, what our Star Crown sect gains will merely be a tottering Star Luo Empire, nothing more than a burden. I do not want the Star Luo Empire taken over by our Star Crown sect to be one where nobles plot rebellion every day, nor is such an empire what Spirit Hall wants. Therefore, let all those in the Star Luo Empire who are loyal to the royal family go die. Meanwhile, inside the Star Luo Palace, Dai Wisi met his father. The moment they met, Dai Wisi threw himself onto his father, his eyes reddening and swelling in an instant as he wept bitterly. "Father, your child has come to see you." Cough, 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 cough. "Good, good, good. Wisi, do you know why I summoned you here this time?" Dai Wisi was crying with red eyes, but hearing Emperor Dai's words, his weeping paused briefly. Shaking his head with reddened eyes, he said, "Your child does not know." The Star Luo Emperor smiled faintly, without indicating whether he believed him or not, and ultimately stated his purpose directly. "I summoned you here this time precisely because I want to pass the throne to you." Cough, 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 cough. Seeing this, Dai Wisi said with a look of deep sorrow, "Father, I do not want the throne. I only want you to live in good health." Enough. How can a prince of Star Luo be so indecisive and sentimental? "Help me up." Yes. With red eyes, Dai Wisi helped the Star Luo Emperor up. The Star Luo Emperor slowly walked over to the desk and sat in the chair. Just as he was about to write something, a voice suddenly sounded outside the door, saying, "Emperor, the Grand General and the Second Prince request an audience." The Star Luo Emperor frowned and said, "What are they coming here for?" "Tell them I won't see them." "Ah." The Star Luo Emperor slowly turned his head to look at the first prince, Dai Wisi, behind him, his face filled with confusion. He did not understand why Dai Wisi would stab him at this moment. He had clearly intended to pass the throne to him. In the past, let alone one stab, even 10 stabs would not have been a major problem. But in the Star Luo Emperor's critically ill condition, this single stab was undoubtedly the final straw that broke the camel's back. Why? The Star Luo Emperor only had time to ask this last question slowly before collapsing straight down. This sound undoubtedly alarmed the second prince and the Grand General outside the door. Ignoring everything else, they burst directly into the room, and in a single glance saw the first prince holding a dagger, his hands covered in blood, staring blankly ahead. In front of the first prince lay a corpse quietly. Looking closely, the second prince and the Grand General recognized that the corpse before them was none other than the Star Luo Emperor. Chapter 71, Internal Strife in Star Luo. Why did this happen? It clearly shouldn't have been like this. How could I have killed father? How could I do such a thing? Why? At this moment, in the clouds above the imperial palace, Ghost Duluo looked down at the scene below inside the palace, nodded with satisfaction, and left. Meanwhile, the second prince snapped out of his daze and requested of the Grand General of Star Luo beside him, Grand General, please capture this parasital traitor Dai we see at once. Hearing the second prince's words, the Grand General snapped back to reality as well. Staring at the first prince before him with a complex expression, he could not help but feel it was a pity. He didn't understand why, when the emperor was already in his final moments, the first prince couldn't just endure it. Could it be that the emperor wanted His Highness the second prince to inherit the throne, which drove the first prince to commit murder? However, the Grand General had no time to overthink things right now. Looking seriously at the first prince before him, he spoke solemnly. Your Highness First Prince, forgive me. No, Grand General, I didn't do any of this. Someone is framing me. Yes, someone is setting me up. Grand General, yes, my imperial brother. Imperial brother, it was you. You sent someone to frame me, didn't you? Then you let the Grand General discover it just to set me up. Grand General, you must believe me. Hearing this, the second prince raised an eyebrow slightly, looked at Dai Wuxi before him, and said with furious anger. Imperial brother, what are you saying? Now that both witness and physical evidence are present, do you still want to frame me? If someone nearby truly controlled you, how could the Grand General fail to notice? The Grand General is a spirit Duluo. If I were to frame you, could I possibly mobilize an ally who is a titled Duluo? The Grand General could not help but sigh at this. He stepped forward and directly knocked. The first prince unconscious. The second prince is right. If there was really someone around us, I would have sensed them long ago. Seeing Dai Wuxi knocked unconscious, the second prince turned his gaze toward his father's body. Looking at his father's corpse, the second prince's eyes instantly reddened, yet he still pretended to be strong as he asked the Grand General beside him. Grand General, father is dead. I wonder where the Star Luo Empire should go from here. The Grand General gave the second prince an indifferent glance, remained silent for a moment, and then said. Rest assured, second prince. I will testify for you that this act was indeed committed by the first prince. The first prince is not worthy to inherit the throne of Star Luo at all. In that case, thank you for taking trouble over this, Grand General. After all, I cannot let the Star Luo Empire fall into the hands of a parasite. Otherwise, it would drag the Star Luo Empire into the abyss. Guards. Summon the Prime Minister and all civil and military officials to wait in the main hall. Yes. Half an hour later. Prime Minister, why do you think His Majesty summoned us here this time? The Prime Minister raised his eyes and saw that the person before him was Zhou Yao, an important official of Star Luo in charge of the Ministry of Rights. After considering it, he spoke. His Majesty probably intends to announce the position of Crown Prince. Having said that, the Prime Minister ignored Zhou Yao's confusion, closed his eyes again, and rested to conserve his energy. Zhou Yao was also bewildered, but he still passed the news he obtained from the Prime Minister to the colleagues around him. The second prince has arrived. Hearing this, the important ministers couldn't help but frown. Was the second prince really not afraid that such high-profile behavior would anger the first prince, who might kill him once he ascended the throne? Or had the second prince received news in advance that he was the crown prince? At this moment, all the high officials of Star Luo were left uncertain by the second prince's grand entrance. As the second prince slowly appeared before everyone, they looked over and were greatly shocked to see the Grand General of Star Luo standing beside him. Had the Grand General chosen a side? Or did he already have accurate information that the second prince was the victor for the crown prince position? Looking at the Grand General beside the second prince, everyone exchanged glances in disbelief. The second prince walked in front of the Star Luo officials and said, Ministers of Star Luo, I am here to announce tragic news. His Majesty has passed away. The Star Luo Emperor has passed away. This news rendered all the high officials of the Star Luo Empire present silent for a long time. After a moment, someone finally reacted and couldn't help but weep aloud. Your Majesty, how could you have passed away? I have not yet repaid your grace of appreciating my talents. How could you leave us? Who was it? Just who possessed such a venomous heart to murder our merciful and great Star Luo Emperor? If I find out who it was, I will tear them to pieces. Everyone present snapped out of it as well, all weeping with grief-stricken faces. Your Majesty, how could you die like this? Who could be so cruel and vicious? It was the first prince, Dai Wuxi. Amidst the chorus of wailing, a voice stood out distinctly, uttering the first prince's name. Hearing the reference to the first prince, the crying of the crowd paused slightly. One minister asked, as if he hadn't heard clearly, as second prince. Who did you say it was? The second prince shot a cold glare at this Star Luo official, who instantly felt as though he was being watched by a venomous snake, feeling thoroughly uncomfortable all over. It was the first prince, Dai Wuxi. It was the first prince, Dai Wuxi. Did you hear clearly? Why yes, I heard. Clearly. The minister hurriedly nodded in response. Your Highness second prince, where is the first prince right now? Regarding this matter, it would still be best to hear the first prince's explanation, the prime minister suddenly spoke up. Seeing that it was the prime minister, the second prince immediately put on a smiling face and said, why ask the first prince about this matter? Both the Grand General and I were present at the time, and the Grand General can testify to it. Grand General, isn't that right? The Grand General nodded. I was indeed beside the second prince at that time, and I witnessed the first prince assassinating the emperor with my own eyes. The prime minister shook his head at this and insisted. I still believe it is better to hear the first prince's explanation regarding this matter. Hearing this, the second prince's face darkened completely, inwardly cursing, old stubborn fool. Asterisk. Nevertheless, the second prince ultimately complied and had the guards bring the first prince out from the dungeon. Upon seeing the first prince, the prime minister asked, Your Highness first prince, was his majesty truly killed by you? Unable to listen further, the second prince said, Prime Minister, how could this be false? Could the Grand General and I possibly lie to you? No, I did not kill him. Seeing this, a faint smile flickered deep in the prime minister's eyes. It seemed the plan was about to begin. Chapter 72, Tang Hao and Son's Trip to the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. Is this it? That's right, it's right here. Tang San looked at the mist-filled place before him with some excitement. It's finally here, the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well, I have come. Since that's the case, let's go in. Little San, hold on tight to me. MN. As Tang San tightly grasped Tang Hao's hand, Tang Hao couldn't help but rise and fly into the poisonous mist. As the two gradually penetrated deeper, the fifth elder of Spirit Hall inside the poisonous mist felt a slight chill in his eyes and quickly flew out of the wooden house. It seems a little bug wants to come in. Guangling Duluo's gaze looked into the poisonous mist, his eyes slightly cold as he stared ahead. Soon, Tang Hao and his son walked out of the poisonous mist. Seeing this childlike Guangling Duluo before them, Tang Hao couldn't help but be stunned, while Tang San's pupils rapidly shrank. Then a sentence blurted out. Guangling Duluo. Hearing Tang San's words, Tang Hao's mind went even more blank. Guangling Duluo. Who was that? Father, be careful. The person before us is none other than Spirit Hall's fifth elder, Guangling Duluo. I heard about this from my teacher. Spirit Hall's fifth elder has the appearance of a youth, possesses long silver hair, his left eye is covered by ice and snow, and his left arm is in an icy state due to his spirit. Therefore, the person before us is precisely one of Spirit Hall's running dogs, the fifth elder of the Elder Hall, Guangling Duluo. I didn't expect that after this old man has not stepped out into the world for so many years, there would still be someone who remembers this old man. It is truly a joyful occasion. However, this old man is really curious, who on earth is your teacher? To actually know these secrets of Spirit Hall, you must know that only existences at the elder level of Spirit Hall are qualified to know this old man's name within Spirit Hall. This old man wants to see, could it be that a traitor has emerged from Spirit Hall, actually daring to leak this old man's information? You truly are courting death. Tang Hao also understood at this moment. Although he didn't recognize the person before him, he was clearly an enemy of Spirit Hall. Little San, stand behind me. Watching the little actions of Tang Hao and his son before him, Guangling Duluo couldn't help but smile and said, "Futile struggles." Immediately, his spirit manifested, the bowstring was slightly pulled back, and he aimed at the father and son pair of Tang Hao. "Let me send you father and son on your final journey, to completely wash away the humiliation my spirit hall suffered a few years ago." 7th Spirit Ability, Martial Soul True Body. 8th Spirit Ability, Extremity. Seeing Guangling Duluo's arrow getting closer and closer, Tang Hao couldn't help but use Clear Sky Sect's ultimate technique, Ring Explosion. Ring Explosion. As Tang Hao's words fell, the 1st Spirit Ring, 2nd Spirit Ring, 5th Spirit Ring, and 7th Spirit Ring burst apart one after another. A massive surge of energy poured into Tang Hao's body. Tang Hao felt his whole body filled with power at this moment, so he concentrated all his strength onto the clear sky hammer in his hand and launched it out. After a loud crash, following a burst of blinding light, Tang Hao and his son flew rapidly toward the outside of the ice and fire yin-yang well, and it looked like they had already entered the mist. Guangling Duluo chuckled faintly. Looking at Tang Hao and his son fleeing rapidly ahead, he sneered, "Run. Can you run away? Can you outrun this godly bow of Guangling in this old man's hands?" Immediately, Guangling Duluo slowly raised the spirit godly bow of Guangling in his hand, gently pulling the bowstring upon the divine bow, and an arrow slowly condensed. 9th Spirit Ability, Devourer of Gods. As the bowstring was released, the arrow flew rapidly in the direction where Tang Hao and his son had left. Guangling Duluo glanced at it, paid it no further mind, and quietly landed down to continue guarding the ice and fire yin-yang well before him. After all, Guangling Duluo wasn't certain whether Tang Hao and his son had other accomplices, and whether everything before him was a setup deliberately made to lure him away. Therefore, Guangling Duluo did not continue chasing them down. After all, his mission was merely to guard the ice and fire yin-yang well, rather than to kill Tang Hao and his son. As for the matter of Tang Hao and his son, he just needed to notify Spirit Hall and let others handle it. Tang Hao, who had just run out of the poisonous mist, seeing that Guangling Duluo was not chasing, just wanted to let out a sigh of relief when suddenly a sense of terror instantly enveloped his entire body. Tang Hao instantly became tense, his whole body stiffened, and he immediately threw Tang San in his hand into the distant woods. Turning around to look at the arrow shot by Guangling Duluo, he couldn't help but use all his strength. Great Sumeru Hammer. Ring Explosion. Following that, the remaining few spirit rings on Tang Hao's body also burst apart one after another. The arrow before him flew over in this split second, heading towards Tang Hao, and Tang Hao's clear sky hammer also instantly resisted the arrow shot by Guangling Duluo. Just as Tang Hao and his son were rejoicing over this, the arrow before them exploded instantly, and the aftermath generated by the explosion swept Tang Hao into it. Soon, the aftermath dissipated, and Tang Hao's figure slowly appeared, except that at this moment, one of Tang Hao's arms was clearly missing. Tang San looked at his father's back before him, his eye sockets turning red, and shouted loudly, "Father, why could Guangling Duluo be this strong? Why shouldn't Guangling Duluo only be a level 97 Super Duluo? Why has Guangling Duluo's strength actually reached level 98 in this lifetime? And why was the strength of the 9th Spirit Ability just now not the least bit weaker than a level 99 attack? Why is all of this happening?" Thinking of this, Tang San couldn't help but generate a trace of resentment towards Guangling Duluo at the ice and fire yin-yang well inside the poisonous mist. "Guangling Duluo, you have already chosen the path to your own death. Father, are you all right?" Tang Hao looked at his severed hand, shook his head, and said, "It's just losing one hand, it's not a big problem." Tang San, looking at his father's severed hand before him with bloodshot eyes, said with a choked voice, "Father, all of this is my fault. If it weren't for my insistence on searching for the ice and fire yin-yang well, you wouldn't have become like this." Tang Hao shook his head and said directly, "It's better to leave this place first now. After all, Spirit Hall's running dog is right here. If we continue to stay here, that Spirit Hall running dog might chase after us at any moment. If that running dog continues to chase, I won't have the ability to protect you anymore, little San." Dad. I know. Then let's leave first. All right. After saying that, Tang Hao took Tang San before him and sneaked away in defeat. However high-spirited they were when they came, they were just as disheveled when they left. Chapter 73. Hey, Xiaogang, what are you looking at? Hearing this, Grandmaster glanced back at the woman behind him, then continued to look forward, saying faintly, I'm looking to see when little San and the others will be back. Bibi Dong immediately understood that Yu Xiaogang was clearly worried that there were no treasures at the ice and fire yin-yang well that could resolve his spirit's flaw. Thus, Bibi Dong stepped forward and comforted him. Xiaogang, don't worry. Since your apprentice said there is something at the ice and fire yin-yang well that can help your spirit evolve, there definitely will be. After all, you also know your apprentice's character. No matter what, he wouldn't lie to you, his master, about something like this, right? After hearing Bibi Dong's comfort, Yu Xiaogang clearly still hadn't set his mind at ease, continuously gazing toward the direction of the sunset forest with a worried expression. Suddenly, Yu Xiaogang saw a figure slowly appear in his field of vision, and excitedly asked Bibi Dong beside him, Bibi Dong, quickly help me see if the person ahead is little San and his father. Hearing Grandmaster's words, Bibi Dong did not immediately follow his instructions. Instead, she became immersed in the form of a dress Grandmaster had just used. Bibi Dong. He actually called me Bibi Dong, he was actually unwilling to even call me Donger anymore. Bibi Dong stared at Yu Xiaogang before her with a complicated expression, looking at the youth in her memories who seemed to have turned into a completely different person, her expression inevitably growing somewhat complex. Not hearing Bibi Dong's response, Yu Xiaogang inevitably grew somewhat impatient and said once more in an ordering tone. Bibi Dong, hurry and help me take a look. Is it really little San and his father or not? Hearing this, Bibi Dong remained in a blank daze, then stiffly turned her head to look at Grandmaster. What did you call me? At this moment, Grandmaster clearly had not realized anything was wrong and impatiently replied. Bibi Dong, what's wrong? After speaking, Grandmaster also realized something was amiss and hurriedly apologized to Bibi Dong. Donger, I'm sorry. It's all my fault for being far too anxious, which is why I treated you this way. Donger, all of this is my fault. Oh dear, I really seemed a bit too anxious just now. How did I manage to blurt out what was in my heart? Hearing Grandmaster's sophistry, Bibi Dong couldn't help but believe his excuses, even making excuses for Grandmaster in her heart. Perhaps he really was just too anxious. Donger, can you tell me whether those two people ahead are little San and the others? My strength is low, so I really can't see clearly. Hearing this, Bibi Dong still helped Grandmaster take a look. Upon looking, she discovered that the clear sky Duluo before her had actually broken an arm. Bibi Dong couldn't help but open her mouth wide in shock. What on earth had they encountered? To actually be able to make Clear Sky Duluo break an arm. Clear Sky Duluo has actually broken his arm. Hearing this, Grandmaster was first stunned, then reacted, and with a flushed face forcefully turned Bibi Dong around to face him, saying, Bibi Dong, what did you say? Clear Sky Duluo actually broke his arm. Hearing Grandmaster's words, Bibi Dong frowned. Seeing Bibi Dong frown, Grandmaster couldn't help his heart skip a beat. My mouth is really cheap. I just apologized to her. How did I make the same mistake again? If this crazy woman really goes crazy, no one in Shrek Academy will be able to stop her. Thinking of this, Grandmaster wanted to appease Bibi Dong first, but immediately afterward, as that figure rapidly approached, he also saw Tang Hao and his son, though at this moment he clearly couldn't care about them. But just as Grandmaster prepared to explain, Bibi Dong suddenly spoke up, staring at Yu Xiaogang with a complicated expression and saying, Explain this matter. Next time, deal with Tang Hao and his son first. After speaking, Bibi Dong concealed herself with a complicated expression. Seeing Bibi Dong retreat, although Grandmaster showed some reluctance and apology on the surface, inside he was blooming with joy. It seemed this crazy woman didn't need to be appeased for the time being. At this moment, Bibi Dong covertly concealed her figure and arrived by a small lake inside Shrek Academy, finding an empty spot to quietly sit down. Gazing quietly at the lake water before her, Bibi Dong couldn't help but recall her first encounter with Xiaoging. Xiaoging back then really was different compared to now. Thinking of this, Bibi Dong thought of the scene later when, because of Xiaoging, her teacher crippled her spirit and had her dragged to the execution stage. Thinking of that teacher she once respected the most, she truly couldn't figure it out even unto death. How could a teacher who loved her so much actually nail her to the pillar of shame to be reviled for thousands of years? How could her teacher truly make her endure so much criticism and bear the ancestral infamy left behind since the establishment of Spirit Hall? After thinking about all this, Bibi Dong thought of Yu Xiaoging's current appearance and couldn't help feeling heartbroken. Was everything she did really worth it? Was Xiaoging really that perfect? At this moment, a trace of doubt toward Yu Xiaoging inevitably arose in Bibi Dong's eyes. Inside Yu Xiaoging's house at this time, looking at Tang Hao with the broken arm before him, Yu Xiaoging revealed a distressed expression, as if the severed arm wasn't Tang Hao's but his own. Little San, what on earth did you and Clear Sky Duluo go through? To actually cause even Clear Sky Duluo to lose an arm because of it? Tang San also had a sad expression at this moment. Hearing his master's words, he still recounted what had happened earlier once more. Guangling Duluo. So that's how it is, it turned out to be him. I just didn't expect his strength to be so terrifying now. It seems his strength has improved quite a bit over these years. Yu Xiaoging sighed endlessly at this, as if the Guangling Duluo in his mouth was an old friend of his. Even though Tang San had a sad face at the moment, seeing Yu Xiaoging's expression, his mouth still couldn't help twitching. To be honest, you only understood the other person through that holy maiden Bibi Dong. How can you have the nerve to speak as if you and the other person are old acquaintances? However, Tang San was very sensible and did not speak out his inner thoughts at this moment. After all, the explanation he gave to his father regarding Guangling Duluo was learned precisely from Yu Xiaoging here. But at this moment, Yu Xiaoging suddenly said, "Little San, for this matter, you and Clear Sky Duluo just need to rest well. Leave this matter to me to handle." Tang San looked on with a face full of doubt. "You handle it? How will you handle it? Is it based on your Spirit Grandmaster spirit power reaching level 29? Or is it based on your powerful and handsome spirit? If this were like the previous life, and the Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall was Bibi Dong, I would feel your words had some credibility. After all, in your past life, if you couldn't beat them, you could directly go find the Supreme Pontiff. But now, after Tang San carefully scanned Yu Xiaoging before him and confirmed he was still the same old Yu Xiaoging without anyone swapping places, he expressed even greater doubt toward this. Meanwhile, Tang Hao beside him suddenly thought of something and directly nodded in response. "Then I'll have to trouble you, Grandmaster." Chapter 74, Unexpected Title. Seeing his father agree, Tang San opened his mouth, but in the end, he still didn't say anything. Maybe his teacher really had some matters he didn't know about. Tang San comforted himself this way. Thinking this, a trace of anticipation couldn't help flashing through Tang San's heart. In this lifetime, had his teacher also undergone some changes? At this moment, at the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well, Guangling Duluo spoke into the communication tool given by Qian Xunji. That's right, absolutely. Good, let's leave this matter at that. Remember to send someone to handle this matter." A few days later, Bibi Dong looked at the poisonous mist before her and said indifferently, "The Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well mentioned by Xiaoging's disciple should be right here." At this moment, at the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well inside the poisonous mist, Guangling Duluo looked at the incoming person with an excited face. "Second brother, why are you here?" Gold Crocodile Duluo first glanced at the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well, and then spoke. "Me coming here is naturally to capture the fugitive Tang Hao. After all, you also know his strength. Aside from the chief elders making a move, other beings like elders do not have the certainty to take him down." "Right, you said the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well suffered an invasion, how come I see it looks like there's no damage at all?" Guangling Duluo smiled and explained, "Second brother, don't you believe my strength? With Tang Hao's strength, he is still unable to destroy the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well right under my eyelids." Gold Crocodile Duluo nodded and said, "That's right. After all, no matter how strong Tang Hao is, he is merely a titled Duluo. It seems that our spirit hall overestimated him. Big brother. Before he finished speaking, Guangling Duluo suddenly felt an aura entering the ice and fire yin-yang well. At the same time, Gold Crocodile Duluo also sensed this aura and frowned slightly. Such a strong aura, is it a super Duluo expert? Guangling Duluo's expression turned ugly, and he said to the Gold Crocodile Duluo beside him, "Second brother, wait a moment. After I deal with this little fellow who broke into the ice and fire yin-yang well, I will come back to catch up with second brother." I will go with you. If second brother wishes to, of course that's good. At this moment, Bibi Dong had also entered the interior of the yin-yang well. Looking at the soul-stirring natural wonder before her, she couldn't help marveling at the magic of nature. Just as Bibi Dong was immersed in the beautiful scenery of the ice and fire yin-yang well before her, a voice pulled her back to reality. "Little girl, this is not a place you should come to. Quickly retreat, and I can pretend that nothing happened." Guangling Duluo slowly manifested his figure in the air, and at the same time, he also lit up the spirit rings symbolizing his identity, a total of 9 spirit rings, which also represented his identity as a titled Duluo. Looking at the two people standing in the air before her, Bibi Dong recognized that the person currently lighting up 9 spirit rings was precisely the object she wanted to deal with on this trip, Guangling Duluo. As for the white-haired and white-bearded old man standing next to him side by side, Bibi Dong felt somewhat doubtful. She didn't remember Xiaogang saying there was another target on this trip. Moreover, judging by his attire of golden robes with silver embroidery, and his standing position identical to Guangling Duluo before her, it was obvious that this person was just like Guangling Duluo, also a chief elder. Xiaogang's intelligence did not mention this chief elder. Is he newly arrived? Bibi Dong guessed. "Hey, little girl, I'll warn you one more time here. If you still don't withdraw, then you can stay here forever." After saying these words, Guangling Duluo also slightly released his aura and pressed it toward Bibi Dong before him. Hearing Guangling Duluo's words, Bibi Dong smiled and said, "That will also depend on whether the two of you have the strength to keep me here." Hearing this, Guangling Duluo raised an eyebrow and said with a slightly disdainful tone, "Little girl, you can feel free to try. Let's see if this old man is truly capable of keeping a little girl like you here. In that case, please enlighten me, Guangling Duluo." Hearing this little girl before him directly call out his title, Guangling Duluo couldn't help being stunned. He directly narrowed his eyes, observed Bibi Dong carefully once more, and said with full killing intent, "It seems you are not someone who accidentally stumbled in here, but came fully prepared. Me coming here is naturally for the heaven and earth treasure here. How could I not investigate clearly that this place is the territory of Spirit Hall?" Bibi Dong generously acknowledged the purpose of her trip. "It seems that behind you, there is not just you, but other people too. In that case, have you thought about the consequences of making an enemy of our Spirit Hall? Coming here, what consequences will there be? I have naturally already thought them through, and I don't need Guangling Duluo's reminder. Instead of worrying about us, you'd better worry about yourself. Oh, it looks like you have quite a bit of confidence in yourself. Since that's the case, this old man must properly experience your methods. Wouldn't it have been good if it was like this earlier? We didn't have much to say to begin with. According to the rules of the Spirit Master's world, let's see the real deal with our hands." After speaking, both sides summoned their respective spirits. After their martial soul true body possessed them, they looked at each other vigilantly. As both sides were possessed by their spirits, their auras leaked out. Feeling that the opponent's aura was actually equal to his own strength, Guangling Duluo couldn't help generating a trace of lucky relief in his heart, rejoicing that this time's intruder was truly unlucky to have happened to coincide with his second brother's arrival. Otherwise, it might really have been possible for her to succeed this time. After confronting each other for a while, Guangling Duluo suddenly thought, once they start fighting later, won't this place be directly blown to pieces? After all, his strength was roughly equal to the opponent's. If they really fought, the destruction to this place would definitely not be small. Therefore, Guangling Duluo thought about it and said directly to Bibi Dong before him. Since you came for the heaven and earth treasure here, you surely don't want the heaven and earth treasure here to suffer damage, right? Let's see the real deal outside. Thinking about this for a moment, Bibi Dong also nodded and directly replied. Good. At this moment, inside Star Luo City of the Star Luo Empire, as the struggle between the first prince and second prince continuously spread out, the city lords of some major cities couldn't help joining the struggles within. After all, the Star Luo Empire was a highly centralized country, and the monarch grasped the vast majority of power, which also led these city lords to constantly pay attention to the situation at the center. After all, the situation at the center was closely related to their subsequent power. Therefore, if these city lords did not join either side of the first prince or second prince now, when one side won in the future and liquidation came, if they could not obtain enough benefits from the other side, then these city lords might be dismissed at any time. Moreover, the Star Luo Empire was not a decentralized country like the Heaven Do Empire. It had complete control over the city lords under its command and was fully capable of removing them, unlike the city lords of major cities in the Heaven Do Empire who were completely scattered small feudal lords. Prime Minister. Among those city lords, how many are willing to support us? Reporting to Your Highness, among the 72 city lords of Star Luo, besides the 27 city lords supporting the second prince and the 20 city lords who intended to watch from the sidelines, there are still a total of 25 city lords willing to support us. They do not believe that Your Highness the first prince is a parricide, and think that all this is merely slander by the second prince. Indeed. I didn't expect that second brother would actually use such means to slander me. Truly despicable. Indeed, Your Highness the first prince. Even this old man did not expect that His Highness the second prince would resort to such vicious means to threaten you. However, Your Highness the first prince need not worry. With the support of our Star Crown sect, Your Highness the first prince seizing the throne is already a nailed-down certainty. After all, the energy of our Star Crown sect can completely compare to the energy of more than a dozen major city lords. All of this thanks to the Prime Minister and the Star Crown sect. If not for the Prime Minister, Dai Wuxi wouldn't even know until when he would be wronged. The first prince need not be like this old man is merely seeking truth from facts. Dai Wuxi gave a bitter smile and said again, although that's the case, I still must thank the Prime Minister. After all, not just anyone dares to speak the truth or is able to speak the truth. If someone with insufficient weight were to speak, presumably second brother definitely wouldn't care. Since that is the case, how can Dai Wuxi not be grateful to the Prime Minister? Seeing this, the Prime Minister before him couldn't help nodding as well. Without declining any further, he softly responded, which counted as accepting Dai Wuxi's gratitude. Chapter 75 Gold Crocodile's Advice to Bibi Dong. To think that your strength is actually so strong. You were actually able to directly injure this old man. Guangling Duluo wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, you're not bad either. Furthermore, are you really just the fifth offering of Spirit Hall? Why is your strength actually already close to the limit? Are the offerings of Spirit Hall all this strong? Bibi Dong said with a face full of dread, her other eye still closely staring at the gold crocodile Duluo beside them. After all, the strength and status of this white-haired and white-bearded old man before her were obviously much higher than Guangling Duluo's. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been quietly resting with his eyes closed over there the whole time, acting as if he didn't care at all about the victory or defeat of the battle here, obviously having enough confidence in himself to handle the battle here. Bibi Dong guessed that the old man before her was definitely a limit Duluo, otherwise, he wouldn't be so calm. Guangling Duluo did not answer Bibi Dong's words, but instead asked the gold crocodile Duluo beside him for help, saying, second brother, you should make a move too. I am somewhat unable to handle the person before us. Gold crocodile Duluo faintly opened his eyes, looked towards Bibi Dong, and said, how truly astonishing. A powerhouse like you has suddenly appeared on the continent, yet our Spirit Hall hasn't received any information. Viewed this way, Your Excellency should be a reclusive person, but why must a reclusive person like Your Excellency interfere in worldly affairs and make an enemy of our Spirit Hall? If Your Excellency is willing, after joining our Spirit Hall is willing to grant Your Excellency an offering position equal to mine. There's no need to say any more. I have an irreconcilable grudge with you all of Spirit Hall. Allowing me to join your Spirit Hall is utterly impossible. Hearing this, Gold Crocodile Duluo frowned and couldn't help saying, could it be that those scum of Spirit Hall in the past angered Your Excellency, causing Your Excellency to harbor such a great misunderstanding toward our Spirit Hall? After all, although our Spirit Hall is an organization established for the peace of the continent, due to its vast size and wealth, it inevitably breeds a little scum, which even offerings of Spirit Hall like us cannot fully detect. If this has caused trouble for Your Excellency, I, Gold Crocodile Duluo, am willing to use my spirit as a guarantee, here representing Spirit Hall to give Your Excellency some compensation, and am willing to apologize and make amends. Furthermore, if Your Excellency states the names and positions of that scum, Spirit Hall is willing to assist Your Excellency in disposing of those scums of Spirit Hall. Gold Crocodile Duluo said this extremely seriously, without a trace of hypocrisy. Even Bibi Dong, who was currently an opponent, could sense the sincerity in these words, yet Bibi Dong's heart remained completely calm about it. After all, her enemy was none other than that Supreme Pontiff Qian Xunji. The Gold Crocodile Duluo before her was simply impossible to deal with her former teacher for her sake. Not to mention that her teacher, as the leader of a faction, was not wrong in doing so to begin with. There's no need. My enemy is the Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall. Could the offering before me perhaps have the ability to depose and enthrone a Supreme Pontiff? Hearing this, Gold Crocodile Duluo thought Bibi Dong was playing with him. After all, whose enemy was the Supreme Pontiff? Wasn't this looking for trouble? However, although Gold Crocodile Duluo had some life chi, he also understood one thing: the person before them was simply unwilling to walk alongside their Spirit Hall. In that case, Your Excellency must think well about the consequences of making an enemy of our Spirit Hall. After all, our Spirit Hall has stood tall on the continent for tens of thousands of years, and it certainly wasn't by relying on the charity of others that we successfully stand tall. After speaking, Gold Crocodile Duluo also released his own chi to let the Bibi Dong before him experience the strength of Spirit Hall. After Bibi Dong felt Gold Crocodile Duluo's chi, her pupils couldn't help but shrink slightly. Limit Duluo. At this moment, Bibi Dong was incomparably certain that the Gold Crocodile Duluo before her was definitely a powerhouse at the Limit Duluo realm. Feeling Gold Crocodile Duluo's chi, Bibi Dong also couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat. It seemed that this time she had truly met her match. Thinking of this, Bibi Dong's gaze couldn't help but firm up. It seemed it was time to break through the realm. Otherwise, she might really perish right here. After all, the strength of these offerings of Spirit Hall before her was obviously slightly stronger than ordinary powerhouses of the same realm. Yet it was precisely this slight margin that was the key to deciding her fate among them. It seems that Senior Gold Crocodile can definitely be considered one of the strongest within Spirit Hall. I never expected that you would come to guard a place like this. Bibi Dong wanted to pry words out of Gold Crocodile Duluo before her, but Gold Crocodile Duluo clearly didn't fall for this trick and directly said, "This old man will give you one more opportunity. Will you surrender or will you fight? If you fight, you might die. If you surrender, you can still become an offering of Spirit Hall." Seeing that she couldn't pry any words out of Gold Crocodile, Bibi Dong no longer paid attention to anything else, put all her energy directly onto the battle, and said straightforwardly to Gold Crocodile Duluo, "Cut the crap. If you want to fight, then let's fight." "Good. Since that's the case, this old man will let you witness in advance just how huge the gap is between the strength of a Limit Duluo and a Super Duluo." With those words finished, Gold Crocodile Duluo directly made his move, unleashing his self-created spirit ability, Mountain Crocodile's Tail, toward the Bibi Dong before her. Bibi Dong instantly reacted, getting up and wanting to dodge, only to discover that the spirit ability was already charging toward her at high speed. It was already too late. Therefore, she had no choice but to unleash her own martial soul true body. After using two defensive spirit abilities, she once again used her strongest offensive means. After a burst of intense explosions, Bibi Dong was directly dragged across the ground for 100 meters. Along the way, tree after tree was knocked down by Bibi Dong in succession. In particular, the few trees at the very front were even directly smashed into powder by Bibi Dong. At this moment, a mouthful of fresh blood directly spewed out from Bibi Dong, sprinkling onto the earth and dyeing the ground an even more brilliant red. Standing high up in the sky, Gold Crocodile Duluo's gaze couldn't help but look down patronizingly at the somewhat disheveled Bibi Dong at this moment, and he said straightforwardly, "Now you understand the strength gap between us, right? A casual strike from a limit Duluo is already the limit after all of you unleash your full strength. A limit Duluo and a super Duluo are simply things on two completely different planes. If one says that a super Duluo still belongs to the category of humans, then a limit Duluo has already begun to gradually break away from the category of humans, stepping toward that realm belonging to gods. Powerhouses of this realm can already be worthy of being called half-gods.